Chapter 1561. A group of holy mountain guards helped Ouyang Jinwei and Ouyang Yuanfeng up, but the two of them were already unconscious. Their eyes rolled back and their meridians were completely destroyed. Xianyuan ruler's face was gloomy, his sleeves were fluttering and a murderous aura was emitting from his body. "Dean, how should we deal with Ouyang Yuanfeng and the others?" the deacon behind him asked in a soft voice. Right at this moment, a deacon ran over from afar and scrambled to kneel in front of Dean Xianyuan. He said, Dean, the 100-herb mountain has lost 70,000 to 80,000 disciples this time. Over 20,000 barbaric beasts have died, and 2 demon ancestor realm experts have perished in the battle. The most important thing is that the entire 100-herb mountain has lost all of its soul measuring crystals. Over 80% of the disciples' spatial bags have been stolen by the barbaric beasts. What? Dean Xuanyuan's eyes were filled with murderous aura as he directly smashed the nearby boulder into pieces. Everyone present could not help but be on tenterhooks. Dean Xuanyuan's face was filled with worry. This time, not only Central State City was out of luck, but the entire 100-herb mountain academy was also out of luck. Even Xianyuan ruler himself could not escape the blame. Ouyang Yuanfeng being crippled was not a big deal, but the key point was that Ouyang Jinwei was now second only to the holy sons and holy daughters. Her mother's influence in Holy Mountain was even more dreadful. Hey! It seems like there will be another bloody storm. Sui, you beast! Why didn't you just kill him? Isn't this too much? My Xianyuan ruler's grandson is miserable because of you. Dean Xuanyuan's eyes were filled with anger as his aura swept through the world like a storm. Dean, the Sui that Elder Su mentioned, is he the Sui from the previous Holy Martial Assembly? The deacon did not dare to say more. Whether it is him or not, 100-herb Mountain Academy is completely finished. Right, where is Wang Chuanda? Did you see him? Where did he go? Dean Xuanyuan's eyes narrowed as he looked around and asked the people below. Everyone answered with no. Lu Xier, Shin Mo, and the others were horrified. They didn't expect that the person they just met was Sui. With Sui gone, how were they going to treat the poison in their bodies? They couldn't let the dean know that they were the ones who guided Ouyang Jinwei to the Li family's ancestral hall. They looked at each other. Immediately, he fell to the ground and his legs went limp. He looked at Dean Xianyuan and said, Dean Xianyuan, this is Sui. Sui asked us to snatch the spatial bag and find the soul-measuring crystal for him. Moreover, Elder Wang seemed to have gone to the Li clan's ancestral hall. Dean, Sui even fed us soul-devouring and bone-tempering pills. Save us. Academy Master Xuanyuan's face immediately turned cold. His robe fluttered, and an even more anxious aura surged up as he spoke in a deep voice. Sui, this old man will tear you to pieces and scatter your ashes. Everyone, clean up this place. Deacons and above, follow me to the sacred mountain to treat Mayor Ouyang and Miss Jean Wei. We will meet the Lord together. Yes. Shen Mo, Lu Shuang'er, and the others cried as they crawled to the side. They lifted Mayor Ouyang and left the 100-herb barrier together. After Yunqing, Sui and Xue Honglu passed through the energy of the celestial crystal powder, they entered a world of ice crystals. Countless ice crystals overlapped each other and shone brightly. Standing on a high platform made of ice, Sui and Xue Honglu's cold aura spread out. Old Tai, this place is pure white. Every piece is like a mirror. Where are we going to find the celestial crystal? Sui was a little embarrassed and said subconsciously. When the Li family brought me in, I didn't know anything either. I was only responsible for adding a layer of concealment technique. I could only vaguely feel the aura of the crimson water celestial crystal here. I can guarantee that it is here. Whether you can find it or not depends on your ability, the iron soulfish said leisurely. Sui raised his hand and tapped his chin. He spread out his mind, and the origin supreme technique in his body suddenly circulated rapidly. Rich yuan qi attributes suddenly gathered in mid-air, like an energy that transcended heaven and earth, surging and filling the celestial crystal enchantment. On the other side, Xue Hongluo's qi of holy light burst out. A bright light seal was faintly discernible in the center of her palm. The light changed back and forth between her palm, bringing along a long tail that wandered into the distance and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Swoosh! 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 Under the sweeping force, Xue Hongluo's eyebrows flashed with a trace of golden light. Dozens of terrifying waves shook between her hand seals again. The blazing and dazzling holy light filled the void and flew into the distance. There was a low whistling sound, and the airflow was violent. The energy of these two people was extremely terrifying. Yun Qing and Li Ling's hearts trembled. The rich spiritual energy in the celestial crystal barrier was suddenly broken, and the shocking sound of thunder suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. The two of them have already begun to compete. Yun Qing faintly glanced at Li Ling beside her, a trace of a smile flashing in her eyes. She did not doubt that Su Yi would be able to obtain victory. Fifth Holy Sun, do your best. Li Ling stood beside her, looking at the clear sky golden light that was constantly surging between Xue Hongluo's palms, her eyes filled with anticipation. The two of them had different methods of searching. Su Yi spread out his spiritual sense, searching every small area. Xue Hongluo used the Saint Ruler Qi to search every inch of the area, competing to see who could find the person first. After a while, the atmosphere suddenly froze. Yun Qing and Li Ling's breathing became somewhat hurried. The two graceful figures seemed to have become still statues, and the aura around them seemed to have transcended heaven and earth. To be able to find these two people in a place like this trip was not in vain. This time's Heavenly Wind ranking tournament should be very interesting. Let's also let those arrogant and conceited people on the rankings smack their faces. Yun Qing's waist swayed as she gracefully walked to Li Ling's side, teasing, "Elder sister, do you think your lover will be able to find the person, or will my husband win?" Hearing that, Li Ling's eyes rippled with a trace of shyness as she said, "Miss, please conduct yourself with dignity. He is the Lord Holy Sun." "Ha ha! Hypocrite! In a while, if my husband beats you, the little Holy Sun, into a sorry state, don't cry." Yun Qing made a funny face at Li Ling, then leisurely walked towards Su Yi. Yun Qing quietly stood beside Su Yi, graceful and elegant like a quiet jade person, looking at Su Yi with a light in her eyes. Li Ling pursed her cherry lips, her crescent brows slightly furrowed, not making a sound. So, in an instant, Su Yi's eyes opened. Suddenly, a violent wind blew in front of Su Yi, and a violent gust of air swirled up like a tornado. At the same time, the enormous golden figure behind Xue Hongluo trembled slightly, and terrifying energy filled the air. An enormous gust of wind whistled, and golden light shone in all directions, as a huge whirlwind engulfed the air. "The crimson heavenly crystal is over there!" The two of them simultaneously shouted towards a translucent ice crystal in the northwest direction, their brows filled with surprise. Chapter 1562. In the next instant, Su Yi's hands formed a hand seal with a ghostly speed. The rising Yao's 100 transformation steps and cloud shadows frost steps rapidly flew forward. The ice crystals in the sky faintly overlapped, and Su Yi's figure quickly disappeared among the sky crystals. At the same time, a dazzling golden light erupted from Xiahong House's body. With a push of both hands, dazzling golden light filled the sky with a destructive speed. The hazy shadow behind him seemed to have traveled through the ancient times. The monstrous wind was like a golden wave. Every ray of light gathered together, bringing with it the power to tear apart space. The momentum of lightning converged into a storm that swept through the world. Swish! Xiahong House's figure was also like a human-shaped giant bird, disappearing into the sky of ice crystals. Where are they? In the space formed by countless ice crystals, every movement of Su-Yi and Xiahong House could be seen. However, there were also countless small Su-Yi and Xiahong House. It was impossible to know where they were. Li Ling asked somewhat anxiously. Why bother? Let the men fight among themselves. Yun Jing's tongue was like a lotus flower. With a faint smile, she was like an otherworldly fairy. She gently pulled Li Ling's arm and looked at the two men with a smile. Miss, please be serious. I'll say it again. He is the saint, an existence that I can never hope to reach. Li Ling frowned and sneered. Yun Jing's words were like a knife that tore through her heart again and again. Then you admit that you've thought about it? What? Li Ling's expression changed. She realized that she had spoken her thoughts out loud and retreated in realization. If you like it, then fight for it. If you want it, then say it. Don't envy others when you lose it. All of you from the sacred mountain are sanctimonious people. Yun Jing's expression was ice-cold. Her eyes that were suffused with starlight carried a trace of sorrow. If you like it, then fight for it. If you like it, then fight for it. Li Ling's gaze froze. Yun Jing's voice was as ethereal as a swan, constantly reverberating in Li Ling's mind. In a flash, Li Ling's expression gradually became confused. While she was still in shock, Yun Jing's body moved slightly and said softly, Let's go and take a look. They're coming out. They're over there. Li Ling's mind turned at lightning speed. Her eyebrows were still trembling. She was pulled by Yun Jing to fly up. In a flash, they came to a high ground that was 1,000 feet away from the two people. She could see the battle very clearly. Su-Yi and Xiahong Lu stared at each other. Between them stood a huge piece of icy blue mystical crystal that glowed with a dim light. The two of them each held one side of the crystal, refusing to give way to each other. Xiahong Lu's gaze gradually turned solid, and the energy ripples around her continued to ripple as she spoke to Su-Yi fiercely. Give it to me. You think I'll give it to you just because you say so? Su-Yi's heart was also filled with anger. His eyes flickered with a fierce light. A surge of fighting spirit and anger surged in his eyes. Here, he could finally have a good battle with this enemy that he had set in his heart for a long time. Brat, what's the point of talking nonsense with him? Let me do it. Let's kill him directly. The iron soulfish's entire body crackled. A surge of dark yuan qi gradually surged out from his entrance, but it was suppressed by Su-Yi's mysterious ball of light and the Origin's supreme art. The iron soulfish was immediately discouraged. He didn't say anything else. He snorted softly and closed his eyes again. Do whatever you want. In any case, don't die for me. I've said it before. Regardless of whether you have the crimson water heavenly crystal or not, you have to die. Xiahong Lu's eyes flickered with a piercing chill. Then let's decide the victor with one slash. Su-Yi suddenly raised his gaze. He took a big step forward, and a purple gold light exploded from his hand as he shouted loudly. Starry heavenly soul was like a bolt of lightning. It carried the boundless might of the vast heavens as it cut through the air and slashed out a peerless blade light that could destroy a village. The blade light was dazzling as it slashed down. Fifth Holy Sun! Li Ling cried out in alarm. This slash was no small matter. Even Li Ling could feel its terrifying might from such a distance. Soon after, Yun Jing hurriedly covered Li Ling's mouth. Yun Jing said with a smile, Big sister, it's best that you don't disturb him. Otherwise, you'll lose your life. You. Li Ling instantly felt her elemental aura being locked down by a vast wave of yuan qi, and she couldn't move. Li Ling, who had just developed a favorable impression of Yun Jing, frowned slightly. She cursed in her heart, Despicable! I'm doing this for your own good. Don't get involved. This isn't a battle you can decide. Unless you want your fifth holy son to die. Yun Jing said faintly, as if she could hear Li Ling's thoughts. Li Ling immediately fell silent. Her eyes were slightly dazed, and they were filled with an anxious expression. Aunt, I'll let you know the strength of the sacred mountain." Xiahong Lu was neither fast nor slow. In the face of such a terrifying attack, her expression became extremely grave. Xiahong Lu's face was ashen. She took a step back and her robes fluttered. Metal element Yuan Qi suddenly surged violently. Golden light flickered under her feet, and her figure quickly retreated. The palm print in her hand cooperated with her figure, and a ray of light tore through space like lightning. With a sharp sonic boom, it connected with the starry sky soul. In an instant, the sound of wind and thunder resounded, and the fifth holy sun's metal element Yuan Qi ray was instantly annihilated. Not good. The fifth holy sun's heart was slightly heavy. He didn't expect the saber light to be so earth-shattering that he couldn't dodge it. His holy ruler protective aura circulated again, and the power that he couldn't dodge in time could only be forcefully resisted. Pfft! Golden light exploded, and a surge of Yuan Qi surged between heaven and earth along with a divine aura. The silvery white void suddenly became resplendent. Xiahong Lu was hit by the saber, and her holy ruler protective aura trembled incessantly. She slightly stopped the taste of blood in her mouth and restrained her expression. Su Yi's sudden increase in strength was truly beyond her expectations. After stabilizing herself, Xiahong Lu circulated her holy ruler aura, and the huge hazy shadow behind her once again looked down at Su Yi. Several palm prints condensed, and the hazy divine aura above the void spread out again like a cover. A dazzling sword light ruthlessly swept out from her hand, and a dazzling sword wind surged and whistled. Clang! Golden spears clashed, and heaven and earth cracked. Wherever the golden sword light passed, countless ice crystals were instantly destroyed, and the wind and clouds surged, enveloping Su Yi. A muffled sound of thunder resounded, and the energy of heaven and earth dissipated. Su Yi's saber light was dazzling, like the sun in the sky, while Xiahong Lu's sword light was dark and mysterious, like the moon in the sky. It's also a divine weapon? Yunjing's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Li Ling pushed Yunjing's hand away with a smug look on her face as she reprimanded, "The 9 holy sons of the holy mountain each have a saint weapon. The 5th holy sun's 7-feet-long sword is called Hidden Snow." Boom! The sword light fell, and the saber light disappeared. Xiahong Lu's sword-wielding right hand trembled slightly, and a trace of shock flashed in her eyes. Chapter 1563. To be able to use a sacred weapon to such an extent, you are the first at your age. But if you can't escape, you will still die. Xiahong Lu was as cold as ever, but his voice was like thunder. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. With Su Yi's potential, he couldn't let him go. The hidden snow sword danced in the air, as if it was twisting the void. A huge radiance like a divine sword from beyond the heavens expanded with the wind. In an instant, Li Ling and Yunjing's hearts tightened to the extreme. Xiahong Lu's vitality aura expanded to the extreme. Xiahong Lu was no longer holding back. Good timing. You are also worthy of me bringing you in for a battle. Su Yi wasn't anxious. Instead, he was delighted. The unparalleled great void deep sea vitality in his body surged again. The terrifying aura around him combined with the divine radiance made him look like a god descending to the world. This time, Su Yi was extremely eager to defeat Xiahong Lu. Not only did he want to destroy the radiance of the sacred mountain, but he also wanted to test and train himself for a long time. The battle was getting better, and the two of them actually felt like they were on the same level. Boom! Su Yi snorted. He shook his arm continuously and waved the starry soul. His body released the metallic aura of the second level of the Origin Emperor realm without holding back. The surging vitality aura surged from the great void divine sea and poured out like a flood. Finally, it gathered in the starry soul. The sacred weapon blade radiance mixed with the fire attribute vitality was even more ferocious. It slashed violently in the air and swept toward Xiahong Lu. The incomparably terrifying purple-gold saber light transformed into 12 streaks of light. When they were about to reach Xiahong House, they once again combined into a gigantic and terrifying saber light that collided with Xiahong House's hidden snow sword. The blade and sword clashed, and it was a struggle. The simple exchange of attacks showed the extremely powerful combat strength of the two. In an instant, the sound of wind and thunder resonated at the place where the blade and sword clashed. Extremely dazzling electric arcs escaped from the golden blade radiance. The wind and thunder were unparalleled, and the void trembled. There was a rumbling sound, and strange phenomena appeared. Accompanied by a sky full of golden radiance, the divine destructive aura was a kind of overlord awakening. The huge pressure of an emperor's descent poured out like a raging storm. The enormous energy that pervaded the world collapsed in a ring-shaped manner, and endless ripples surged toward Yunjing. Thud thud, Yunjing and Li Ling circulated their primordial qi and suddenly retreated. They were shocked by such an attack. Li Ling's breathing stagnated as she sucked in a cold breath. Chop him down! Su Yi angrily roared, tightly gripping the heavenly star shock soul. A scarlet light fluctuated in his eyes, flashing and disappearing. His head of black hair fluttered behind him, and his ferocious temperament carried a thunderous rage for no reason. Boom, boom, boom! Earth, water, wind, and fire were like divine rings that lit up successively around Su Yi's body. Dense divine radiance rippled out, and it seemed to be formidable and terrifying. It was as if it carried numerous mysterious and ancient markings, causing him to seem like an ancient god of war that had traversed the heavens and the earth and arrived here with a peerless slaughter. The huge saber light was unable to chop down Xiahong House's hidden snow sword. Both of their auras were incomparably domineering and imposing. Xiahong House, who was tightly protected by the holy ruler protective qi, also gritted her teeth. Dazzling light shone as the illusory palm continuously slapped out. The sword's might was slightly reduced, and with another swing of the sword, an incomparably surging holy ruler golden light once again shot out in all directions, vast and mighty in the void. Whoosh! As the sword light surged, Su Yi's origin supreme technique had already reached its limit. The blood phoenix rends the sky just now had consumed too much energy and could not be used at all. Far away from the two, the crimson clear sky crystal was flickering with a demonic light. An icy blue aura set off layers of waves in the space, as if it was drawing in the spiritual qi of the world. An ancient aura that seemed to have transcended time spread out. Su Yi's mind was greatly moved. His entire body hummed as he instantly entered a state of self-awareness. Under the terrifying aura, Su Yi let out a low roar. The mysterious ball of light once again resonated with Su Yi's mind. Whoosh! Brat, it's dangerous! The iron soulfish, who was in the entrance, suddenly opened his eyes. He knew what Su Yi was about to do and immediately shouted to stop him. Extreme anger and battle intent filled Su Yi's mind. The mysterious ball of light was incomparably dazzling. At this moment, Su Yi could no longer hear any sounds from the outside world. All the sounds of attacks, the howling of the wind, and the whistling of the wind had become incomparably vast. Even the deafening rumbling of the wind and thunder had completely disappeared. Su Yi felt as if he was in a boundless and empty world. The white light in front of him was a suspended icy blue crystal. If Su Yi woke up, he would definitely be able to sense that the mysterious ball of light had already turned into a ball of gas that was surging in all directions within his body. It was emitting an incomparably resplendent light. Suddenly, surging vital energy accompanied by a domineering and destructive aura spread out, causing the entire crystal barrier to tremble. His hair fluttered, and his body flowed with a brilliant red light. He was incomparably full. Divine radiance surged around Su Yi's body as the image of a golden dragon circled behind him. After a while, the image of the Emperor Sparrow appeared. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed color as the divine bird soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it changed into the sonorous roar of a tiger. What's going on? Natural chaos? Yun-Jing discovered that something was wrong. Her eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. Whoosh! She saw Su Yi's thin figure standing upright in the air. His eyes were bloodshot, and every inch of his skin was incomparably hot like a ruby. The aura that spread out from his body was like that of a war god that wanted to destroy the world, wanting to sweep through everything. This isn't Su Yi's power. What exactly is he hiding in his body? Yun-Jing exclaimed, her eyes filled with horror. Zhuanglu, who was in the midst of the terrifying wind, also felt the same as Su Yi. She quickly condensed her hand seals, and the hidden snow sword's blade expanded by several feet. At the same time, within her palm, light surged incomparably. Behind her, a vision appeared frequently. Golden Saint Chi filled the sky with the image of wind and clouds surging. Her entire body's chi burst out with a bang, using it to resist Su Yi's final power. Every time Su Yi spoke, hot air would spurt out from his mouth. His eyes were red, and his skin was constantly emitting white gas. The extreme energy that was surging in his body carried the power to destroy everything. The people of the sacred mountain must die. Su Yi's voice was incomparably hoarse and dry. Su Yi's starry sky soul seemed to have sensed it. The purple gold light shone brightly and directly acted on the hidden blood sword's blade. Bang! Su Yi's suddenly skyrocketed strength directly broke through the hidden snow sword's blade. With an incomparably terrifying power, it shook the surroundings and tore apart Zhuanglu's protective genuine chi with a power that could destroy the world. It brazenly fell toward the incomparably huge hazy figure. Bang, bang, bang! At the place where the golden spears collided, an earth-shattering sound was directly like a sudden clap of thunder. It exploded on the spot, and the air roared incessantly. Chapter 1564. Rumble! The entire celestial crystal barrier suddenly shattered like glass. Countless tiny ice shards flew everywhere. The heavy sound of energy reverberating and the ethereal sound of ice crystals shattering could be heard everywhere. A terrifying gust of wind filled with purplish gold light and golden holy light filled the air. It rushed into the heavens and the earth, causing one's heart to tremble. The holy light shadow dissipated and golden rain fell. Countless strands of energy drifted within the celestial crystal barrier. The world was filled with lightness. Bam! A long blood-red arc flashed in the air. The fifth saint's saber light slammed into him, and he was sent flying into the distance. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Su Yi's sudden increase in strength was definitely not something he could possess. He had always been an absolute saint in the sacred mountain, and yet he had been defeated. The holy ruler's chi has been broken. Xiahong Lu was disappointed. Defeated so quickly and completely, Xiahong Lu spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock as he stared at Su Yi and the crimson water heaven crystal before him. Just as he was about to stand up, a ghastly wound on his shoulder caused him pain. He staggered and fell to the ground again. His face was pale, and blood kept flowing out of his body. After the holy ruler's protective chi was broken by the terrifying force, the meridians in his body were damaged. Xiahong Lu could not hold it in any longer. He lay on the ground with a pale face, panting heavily like an old bellows. Fifth Holy Son! Li Ling shouted loudly. Sui! Yun-Qing also flew up, tears flowing from her eyes. Yun-Jing and Li Ling ran toward the two injured people. Li Ling's eyes were misty. She looked at Xiahong Lu's bloody wound, her hands trembling. Are you okay, Saint? Holy Son. Li Ling gently wiped the blood from the Holy Son's body. Xiahong Lu was still struggling. He wanted to stand up and get the crimson water heaven crystal. He said, "Help me get the heaven crystal." Li Ling paused. She gently supported Xiahong Lu and walked step by step toward the heaven crystal. On the other side, Yun Jing was even more stupefied. Su Yi's entire body was already as hot as a red-hot soldering iron. Countless cracks had already appeared on his lustrous and smooth skin. The cracks were charred black and constantly emitted hot air. Su Yi's eyes were blood-red. No matter how Yun Jing called out to him, Su Yi didn't make any sound. Yun Jing hurriedly channeled her yuan qi into Su Yi's body. A stream of pure and quiet wood attribute yuan qi flowed into Su Yi's wide meridians like spring water. Bang! With a bang sound, an unparalleled wave of energy rose in front of him. Su Yi's incomparably scorching yuan qi pushed Yun Jing far away like a pushing hand. Yun Jing turned around in the air like a swallow and stood steadily. Her eyes were full of astonishment. He could clearly sense that there was a terrifying power occupying Su Yi's body. It was like layers of shock waves, endlessly battering his meridians. Rumble! At this moment, the entire barrier shattered under the impact of the boundless force. Even the ice crystal dome began to collapse. The void trembled, and everyone's eyes were filled with shock. An earthquake-like sonic boom resounded in the sky. Li Ling and Xue Honglu had just stood up when they were once again knocked to the ground. "Why aren't you leaving? Do you want me to kill you?" Su Yi used his life to exchange for the crimson water heavenly crystal. "Get lost." Yun Jing turned around and roared. Her eyes were filled with resentment and anger. She stared straight at Li Ling and Xue Honglu like a knife. Xue Honglu's expression froze. Li Ling looked hesitantly at the fifth saint. To be honest, Yun Jing didn't hate Li Ling. From the fact that Su Yi had brought Xue Honglu in, it could be seen that Su Yi didn't treat her as an ordinary disciple of the sacred mountain. Yun Jing didn't really need to kill them. "Fifth saint, let's go." Li Ling's eyes were misty. She took out an elixir and fed it to Xue Honglu. Her eyes were filled with pain. Xue Honglu's eyes were filled with longing for the crimson water heavenly crystal. Just as he was about to circulate his yuan qi, he spat out another mouthful of blood. His body couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground. Xue Honglu gritted his teeth. Blood splattered all over the ground. He pounded the ground with both hands and said fiercely, "Su Yi, I hope you're still here in the Tianfeng battle. Li Ling, let's go." Li Ling nodded heavily. She supported Xue Honglu and nodded at Yun Jing. She said softly, "Miss, be careful." As soon as she finished speaking, Li Ling's golden light flickered. The dazzling holy light hit Xue Honglu's cold face and disappeared without a trace. Chi! Chi! Countless ice shards fell on Yun Jing's body, cutting her clothes a few times and turning them into flowing water that flew away. Blood and water mixed together. A few strands of hair fell over her eyes. Yun Jing's eyes were filled with Su Yi. How could she care about these things? "Su Yi, hang in there. You'll be fine." Yun Jing stood up. Her palm glowed with yuan qi. An extremely pure energy reached out to the crimson water heavenly crystal and entered her arms. "Oh my God, you finally have the crimson water heavenly crystal." The iron soulfish in the entrance was also extremely weak. "You are the iron soulfish?" Yun Jing asked with a frown. "Yes, I refined the remnant heavenly crystal. That's why I can talk to you through it. Su Yi has already lost his consciousness. Let's bring him out first. Listen to me." The iron soulfish also felt an extremely uncomfortable force. "All right." Yun Jing stood up and gathered her yuan qi on her palm. She summoned the wood spiritual god behind her again. A long beam whizzed out and placed Su Yi on the wood spiritual god's palm. Slash! As soon as the wood spiritual god caught Su Yi, the miniature sun on the wood spiritual god's palm emitted waves of water vapor. The wood spiritual god cried out and struggled to hold on. "Little wood, hang in there. It's going to end soon." Yun Jing's yuan qi surged again and hit the wood spiritual god's palm as she spoke softly. "Save me, young lady, save me. I have no enmity with Su Yi." Yun Qing looked over and saw Wang Chuanda lying on the ground with his legs smashed by the ice crystals. He was crying out with difficulty. She was instantly enraged. "You old bastard! Since Su Yi hates you so much, you must have done something to him." Yun Qing rebuked angrily. After thinking for a while, she still placed him on the wood spiritual god's palm. Yun Qing stepped on Wang Chuanda's body. The wood spiritual god exerted its strength and leaped high into the air, breaking through the dome and connecting with the moon. The night sky was high and the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A huge green figure with a small head and a big body appeared. Its whole body was green like jade. Its sturdy muscles supported Yun Qing and the others firmly. "Find a place close to the moon with rich water attribute. Little girl, hurry." "Okay." Yun Qing, who was sitting on the wood spiritual god's palm, spread out her spiritual sense and pointed into the distance. She took a few hundred feet with each step. Soon, they disappeared into the boundless night. In the blink of an eye, the green figure drifted and jumped out of the 100-grass mountain. It went straight to the mountains in the southeast, far away from the central province. Chapter 1565. Mist covered the mountains and rivers. Under the curtain of night, the mountain forest towered. Layers upon layers of trees, under the baptism of the moonlight, were like endless waves of ink orchid wheat, mysterious and dense, tranquil and elegant. Meanwhile, the distant central continent city was brightly lit, full of noise. There were sounds of house to house searching everywhere, as well as the sounds of women and children crying and crying. The smoke signals that filled the air were incomparably brilliant, dazzling with golden light. The long line of lanterns decorated the entire city with brilliant colors. Everyone knew that tonight, the 100-grass mountain would be covered in blood. Tonight, Central Continent City would not be peaceful. Looking to the right, the 100-grass mountain was quickly accumulating, and the dark clouds that seemed heavy were already slowly dispersing. Looking down from above, one could see that the entire mountain forest was in shambles. There were traces of flames everywhere, as well as the remains of barbarian fiends and cultivators. Meanwhile, the smell of blood was pungent and unpleasant, engulfing the entire world, carried by the wind into the distance. Hong Hong! On a certain lofty cloud peak, the cliffs were immediately overflowing with silver radiance. A torrential waterfall poured down from the mountain peak like a silver river, immediately producing thousands of waves when it landed at the foot of the mountain. The sparkling water droplets were hazy, appearing even more hazy under the moonlight. Walala! The sparkling and translucent water droplets wetted the cliffs. Within the cave behind the waterfall, a shadow's gaze was bleak. It glanced at the noise in the distance and sighed softly. Immediately after, with a wave of its arm, would attribute vital energy directly produced a barrier of vital energy from its palm, covering the entire cave. It no longer looked in Central Continent's direction, turning around and entering the cave. Hong! The vital energy around its body seemed to have grabbed at the void, covering the small moist space like a lid. Immediately, the cave was filled with incomparably fresh wood attribute vital energy, a green expanse, extremely pleasant. Ah! Save me! An elder collapsed in a corner of the wall, currently howling bitterly in endless pain. Looking at the mysterious method the woman used just now, his face revealed shock. He begged, "Young lady, please do me a favor and let me go. Please treat my legs. I am about to die." The one wailing and screaming was Wang Chuanda, who was brought out by Yun Jing. Wang Chuanda's face was deathly pale, and his legs were bleeding profusely. His exposed legs had turned purple due to the bleeding. It was extremely terrifying. He kept looking at Yun Jing, hoping that Yun Jing could save his life. Bang! Yun Jing furrowed her brows and kicked out a stone from under her feet. It was like a small piece of shrapnel that landed directly on Wang Chuanda's head. Ah! Another streak of blood shot into the sky. Wang Chuanda was smashed to the point where he was seeing stars. He lay on the ground moaning in pain. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. His eyes, which were glued to the ground, turned cold and gloomy. He glared at Yun Jing and didn't dare to say another word. "If you keep looking at me, I'll dig your eyes out too," Yun Jing reprimanded. "Ah!" When Wang Chuanda heard this, he used his right hand to cover his eyes. He was afraid that Yun Jing would do as she said. Seeing that there was no response for a long time, he sneaked a peek through the gaps between his fingers. It turned out that Yun Jing was staring nervously at Su Yi, who was lying on the ground. After a while, Yun Jing's essence chi surged and formed a wood element whirlpool in front of her. Suddenly, a violent wind blew, and a strong wave filled the entire cave. Immediately, the temperature in the cave became warm. Yun Jing was trying to use this method to lower Su Yi's body temperature. Hiss, hiss. Milky white gas constantly rose from Su Yi's skin. Su Yi's entire body was shrouded in light. The scorched black cracks were surging with red light. It was incomparably hot. Even the stone that he was lying on was melted, forming a dent that was the same size as Su Yi's body. It was a ghastly sight. "Humph," Wang Chuanda sneered. He was very happy that Su Yi was injured. "What are you laughing at?" At this moment the cave was very quiet. Yun Jing turned her head and said fiercely, "Nothing, nothing." Wang Chuanda was very afraid of Yun Jing. He trembled and struggled to explain. Su Yi wanted to bring him along even if he died. He must have his reasons. Yun Jing couldn't just kill him directly. "Old thing, you're an eyesore. You should go into the space bag," Yun Jing said coldly. Boom! In the cave, a green light flickered. Before Wang Chuanda could react, he was directly put into Yun Jing's space bag. Suddenly, the entire cave became quiet. Only the sound of essence chi surging around Su Yi's body and the sound of water dripping could be heard. Drip, drip, drip. The moist air was accompanied by the dim light. Yun Jing's face was very melancholic. She pursed her lips tightly and breathed heavily. She didn't know what to do. Looking at Su Yi, who was lying on the ground, Yun Jing muttered to herself for a while. Then, her hand gradually reached for her neck. "Girl, do you really want to do this?" The iron soulfish's weak voice was transmitted again. It filled the void. "What?" Yun Jing was startled and asked. A sigh echoed in the small dark cave. The soulfish said faintly, "It's not worth it to trade a life for a life. Be careful, girl." Yun Jing's face changed. A trace of sadness flashed in the depths of her eyes. In her mind, an image flashed. It was also an old man who said to Yun Jing, "A life for a life. Girl, how many lives do you have to trade?" "I don't care." The Yun Jing in the cave and the Yun Jing in her mind said the same thing. Her face was also filled with determination. Yun Jing's beautiful face was once again filled with tears. Her brows were tightly knitted together as she sank into endless sorrow. "I don't want him to die. I don't want Su Yi to die," Yun Jing sobbed. At this moment, her heart was completely revealed. Her watery eyes were filled with tears. After a while, Yun Jing's eyes froze. She wiped her tears and said softly, Soulfish, what do you know?" The iron soulfish chuckled. Then, it coughed violently. It seemed to be in a state of extreme vacuum. It said casually, "I've lived for almost 10,000 years. What do I not know? Tell me honestly, the pearl on your neck is not much worse than the crimson water heavenly crystal, right?" Yun Jing was stunned. The iron soulfish's words were shocking. It held the wood-colored green pearl on its neck tightly and was stunned. "Humph. It's hard to find a primordial crystal stone of the 5 elements plus the wind and lightning energy. This pearl of yours is most likely the wood-een soul crystal. And this time, this kid got the crimson water heavenly crystal of the water element. The world is so big. The 7 types of vitality are born from the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The 7 types of heavenly crystals are the most primitive water elemental crystals after the separation of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. They are born from and nurtured by heaven and earth. When I said that you guys have great luck, I wasn't talking nonsense. I admit you're right, Yun Jing said softly. She wanted to continue listening. Chapter 1566. After a while, the iron soulfish, who was already very weak in the entrance, continued to speak. I didn't tell this kid everything because his cultivation is still too low. Saying too much would only do him more harm than good. I'm just an insignificant existence in the ancient demon race. 10,000 years ago, the demon race perished and the gods disappeared. The whereabouts of the 7 crystals that originally belonged to the gods are unknown. After so many years, the second most important inheritance of the gods, the 7 crystals, appeared in such a low-level plane. It's really miraculous. This kid still has the aura of the phoenix and the golden dragon on his body. Since the items of the gods are scattered here, he must be a person of great fortune. This is the reason why I've been guarding him for 5,000 years. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let him reincarnate so easily. What else do you know? Yun Jing's body trembled. The iron soulfish actually didn't want to say these words. The 7 crystals each have their own functions. The crimson water crystal is soft and traceless. It turns into a formless path that flows in the sea, mountains, and rivers. The wood soul pearl is fresh and natural. It nourishes the growth of all things in the world. It's the root of life. The reason I'm telling you this is so that you can consider it carefully. There's a limit to life, and there's also a limit to death. Presumably, there's a limit to the usage of your wood soul pearl. The iron soulfish meant that the 7 crystals each had their own special abilities. The crimson water crystal could be used to hide its aura. It could evolve in a myriad of ways and become one with the world. The wood soul pearl nourished all things in the world, and could bring any life back to life. With such a miraculous use, the wood soul pearl couldn't be used endlessly. Yes, it can only be used 3 times. Yun Jing's heart trembled. A trace of hesitation flashed across her face. You've already used it once before, right? The iron soulfish sighed. Yun Jing's body surged with air. Her butterfly eyebrows slightly curved, but she didn't comment. Sigh. Although I'm living in this kid's body, he's naturally stubborn. We'll eventually part ways. We might even become enemies in the future. Are you sure you still want to save him? You've already used it once before. Yun Jing didn't even think about it. Her eyes filled with tears again. Her delicate and charming face was resolute. Of course, I want to save him. I want to save him even if I have to die. I feel terrible seeing him like this. The iron soulfish laughed dryly and shook his head. His hoarse voice was filled with relief as he softly said, "No one is perfect and even demons are evil. Being able to meet you 2 little fellows is enough to comfort my entire life. I don't know how many lifetimes of luck this brat has accumulated to let him meet you." Yun Jing's eyes flickered, and a trace of shyness flashed across her face. Bits and pieces of the past few days with Su-Yi suddenly surged into her heart. When we first met and removed my makeup, I felt like I had known him for a very long time. It had only been a few days, but it felt like hundreds of years had passed between the 2 of us. We had only followed him into the Holy Mountain Academy, but it felt like we had gone from life to death. There are always inexplicable entanglements. Perhaps this is what you humans call fate. The iron soulfish's eyes sparkled. Really? But I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Yun Jing was startled. There is no right or wrong in this world. You just asked the Holy Mountain Girl to fight for him, but you are hesitating here. What do you think you are doing? You don't have to be so melancholic. There is actually another way to save him. Hearing this, Yun Jing cried out excitedly. She couldn't wait to know. Please tell me. Girl, you have always only had wood elemental energy. I know you want to hide some things, but you are also a water elemental energy user. You can still refine this crimson water heavenly crystal. The iron soulfish seemed to know everything as it spoke in a deep voice. Phew! Yun-Jing seemed to be relieved of a heavy burden. She was in a daze as she bit her lips. In the end, she still decided to speak to the iron soulfish. I came to Middle Province to look for the crimson water heavenly crystal, but I changed my mind after meeting Su-Yi. I always felt that he was more important than the crimson water heavenly crystal. Indeed, meeting you will make his life even more magnificent from now on. Maybe he will become the most unique existence in this world. The iron soulfish shook its head slightly, and then its voice became even weaker. Yun-Jing was silent. She looked at Su-Yi lying on the ground, and her heart clenched. On the other side, the iron soulfish's voice was about to disappear when it spoke again like a gentle breeze. The energy in this kid's body is too majestic. The golden dragon chi and the mysterious aura are both pure and yang elemental energies. In addition, the phoenix blood essence is stirring them up. At this moment, several types of elemental energies are constantly attacking his body. If his physical strength and meridians weren't strong enough, he would have exploded and died in the barrier. Fortunately, the quality of his soul is extremely high, and he has persevered until now. Then what can I do? Yun-Jing's eyes were gloomy as she asked. Girl, refine the crimson water heavenly crystal. Use your primordial yin body to envelop his primordial yang body. If you combine yin and yang several times and harmonize heaven and earth, the two surging energies will cancel each other out. Not only will he survive, but the two of you will also reap great benefit. How can I do that? After hearing the iron soulfish's suggestion, Yun-Jing's expression changed greatly. Her entire body was flushed red, and she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. The two of you already have feelings for each other. What's wrong with that? One life for one life, or both of you, you should make the decision quickly. I don't have much time left, and my life is in your hands, girl. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, a faint energy disappeared from the cave entrance. Ripples spread out, and the surrounding space suddenly became light and ethereal. Following that, the surroundings returned to silence, and only the sound of heartbeats could be heard. Plop plop, Yun-Jing's eyes were misty, and her charming face was flushed red. Her heart was beating wildly, and she was lying horizontally next to Su-Yi. A scorching heat quietly crept onto Yun-Jing's skin, and her graceful waist trembled slightly. Looking at Su-Yi, whose eyebrows were tightly knitted, and whose entire body was flushed red, Yun-Jing's body also started to heat up. Sparkling and translucent beads of sweat were already dripping down her snow-white face in large droplets under the rising temperature. Su-Yi, do you really like me? Yun-Jing's heart was pounding. Looking at Su-Yi, her eyes were filled with deep love. As soon as Yun-Jing asked this question, the redness spread to her earlobes. Her entire face was like a bud in the snow, tender and beautiful. After a while, Su-Yi's painful groan was heard. Yun-Jing slowly exhaled a deep breath. Her expression was firm, and her hazy eyes were filled with Su-Yi's incomparably red handsome face. Yun-Jing's fragrant cheeks were whiter than snow, and the fragrance of sandalwood came out of her mouth. She bent down and whispered into Su-Yi's ears, Su-Yi, you have to remember me forever. After she finished speaking, Yun-Jing raised her head, and with a wave of her forearm, her body was gradually filled with a soft green glow of vitality. The sash of her clothes gradually widened, and a satin long dress gently slid down her fair and tender skin. Chapter 1567. In less than a breath's time, Yun-Jing was already completely naked. Her snow-white skin was accompanied by an extremely seductive curve as it appeared before Su-Yi's eyes. Instantly, the entire cave was filled with the unique fragrance of a young girl. Yunjing's heart was timid as she pursed her lips and lowered her eyes. Within the cave, the dim light enveloped it. Her fragile waist was like a willow branch swaying in the wind. In her shyness, Yunjing gently pulled Su Yi's hands up and placed them on her slender waist. She gently used her soft hands and the crimson water heavenly crystal rose from the ground. It emitted an extremely bright white light between a bright and beautiful ravine. The bright light and the waterfall outside blended together. The heavenly crystal turned into a string of silver-white water droplets that were engraved on her body. Her skin that was attached to the flowing light gradually melted. Qi La, the beautiful and dreamy water attribute vitality light tightly enveloped Yunjing, who was like a banished fairy. A mischievous moan flowed out from Yunjing's clear throat. The crimson water heavenly crystal's immense energy instantly filled Yunjing's thousands of meridians. Her green blood vessels were clear and blue. Her entire body was glistening with water. The droplets of light made her look dreamy and fairy-like. Qi La. Su Yi's clothes had already melted into ashes due to the extremely hot aura. They were blown away by the wind. His muscular chest was exposed. A masculine aura came from him. Su Yi, who was panting heavily, was like a ferocious beast that was about to pounce on her at any time. His aura was fierce. Yunjing's face was flushed without any makeup. She gently pressed the jade-like cream cheese tightly against Su Yi's chest. After that, every water droplet turned into a witness of the two of them intertwining. Wisps of mist rose and formed a circular white light around the two of them. It was exceptionally flawless. Yunjing's eyes were soft and gentle like snow. They were as clear as a spring. Under the dense atmosphere, she slowly closed her eyes and enjoyed the extreme beauty at this moment. Su-yi. Yunjing's eyes were misty as she called out softly. Su-yi gradually regained consciousness. His breathing became heavier. Jing-er. Su-yi's cries of pain gradually turned into low growls of anger. Yudi, who was in his arms, felt like thousands of ants were itching him. It was as if he could only find a place to put himself. In the blink of an eye, Su-yi's expression changed slightly when he saw that Yunjing's face had changed into another one with seductive eyes and starry eyes. Qianxue. Su-yi called softly. Su-yi, I like you. Qianxue's figure was tall and slender. Similarly, she whispered into Su-yi's ears. She was indescribably charming. Who? Ling Qianxue's eyes lit up, and in the blink of an eye, her face turned back into Lu Ruoxi's dewy eyelashes, leaving only a few ripples in her eyes. Lu Ruoxi's delicate face was crimson, and her lips were slightly pursed into a smile. She looked like a graceful fairy amidst the morning mist as she hugged Su-yi tightly and murmured, Su-yi, it was all a misunderstanding back then. I've always missed you. Su-yi's gaze changed again. Once again, the face in front of him turned into Yunjing's face. In the midst of her seductive and graceful appearance, her pearly white teeth parted slightly. Her breathing was like a warm breeze, and it tugged at Su-yi's heartstrings. In the end, Su-yi gradually succumbed to her. He ran into the dense forest that was like mist and sparse rain. Whoosh! Outside the forest, the resting barbaric beasts flapped their wings and flew high into the sky. The waterfall that flowed down was even more turbulent than when it came. Time was like a rapidly spinning gear. The flowing water flowed along the trajectory of time, rippling with excitement. As the icy blue-crimson heavenly crystal collided with each other, it turned into specks of light that flowed into the mysterious ball of light in Su-yi's body. Boom! The mysterious ball of light in Su-yi's body continuously condensed into a small and rapid vortex. Layers of energy ripples spread out. Wave after wave, they turned into violent winds that swept through the world of yin and yang. Under the canopy of the sky, the lush mountains surrounded by peaks continued to sway. The undulating mountain range seemed to have become a hotbed for a couple. At this moment, in the forest extremely far away, a few small figures were rushing toward the cliff of the waterfall with lightning speed. The leader of the group, Little Black, had a scar on his face. He was especially fast. Like lightning, he shouted loudly, "Hurry! Young Mistress is over there. Young Mistress is definitely involved in the great changes in the 100 Herb Mountain today. Let's go quickly. Protect young Mistress." Yes. The few people behind him responded in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, his voice traveled rapidly through the lush forest like a stream of light. The leader was Little Black Robe. Little Black Robe's eyes flickered. "Young Mistress, why is there another ring missing from your restriction?" Little Black Robe clutched tightly to an incomparably dark green jade stone in his hand. It was suffused with a mystical light. Originally, there were 3 streaks of blood on the jade stone. The dazzling bloody light was now only left with 1 streak of bloody light. "Nothing must happen, young Mistress. Little Black Robe will be here soon. Hang in there." Boom! A few rays of Origin Emperor Realm cultivation lit up again. They rushed into the distance like a hurricane. The forest suddenly seemed to have been hit by a natural disaster. Wherever they passed, the vegetation would fall. An incomparably huge ravine would appear. The sun suddenly rose, the mountains rolled up, and the clouds still covered the rocks. The faintly discernible clouds shrouded the hills. It was as enchanting and dreamy as the previous night, giving people a feeling of endless mystery. Unknowingly, a golden-red sun rose unwillingly from the ridge of the mountain. The forest surged and was dyed with an extremely gorgeous glow by the morning light. The world was exceptionally beautiful. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful Book Mobile Edition website, .com. Chapter 1568. Between the veil and the cliff, Yun Jing, who was wearing a green veil, sat on the cliff like a fairy. Looking at the dazzling blue sky, Yun Jing dissolved her body into the warmth of nature for the last time. A trace of sadness was hidden in her bright eyes. Boom! 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 At this moment the forest below shook. The loud noise was like a ferocious beast moving forward. Leaves flew with the wind. Yun Jing's jade-like legs kept swinging, kicking away clouds one after another. Her cleavage moved back and forth between her clothes. She looked up and exclaimed softly, "I still have to leave. Su-yi, we should meet again, right?" Yun Jing's red lips smiled faintly. A teardrop flowed down her cheek and floated in the air. Boom! The icy blue Yuan Qi light surged, and the Yuan Qi that was much stronger than before directly turned into a storm that covered the sky and shrouded him. After the storm, a beautiful woman in a green dress suddenly appeared on the cliff. Looking back at the cave that was enveloped by the wood element, she was reluctant to part with Su-yi. He was sleeping peacefully with Yun Jing's green gown gently covering him. Bang! Her tall legs coupled with her beautiful figure made her look like a fairy gifted by nature. With a slight movement of her waist, she jumped off the cliff and flew towards the forest in the distance. Little Black Robe and the others raised their heads in alarm when they saw the graceful figure in the distance. They immediately stopped and half knelt in the air as they called out, "Master, Master." "Welcome, eldest miss." Yun Jing's eyes narrowed. She said to everyone, "Rise." The aura around her body was even better than when she was in the 100 Herbs enchantment. The yellow-haired Little Black Robe emitted a bright light, and he said in surprise, "Congratulations, eldest young lady, your cultivation has increased by 1 level. You've reached the 2nd level of the Yuan domain realm. If Lord knew, he would definitely be overjoyed. It's been 4 years. Eldest Miss has finally broken through again." Little Black Robe behind him cheered. According to the levels of martial cultivators, they were divided into 10 stages of martial cultivation. Qi Refining Stage, Foundation Establishment Stage, Yuan Soul Stage, Yuan Profound Stage, Yuan Spirit Stage, Yuan Zhen Stage, Yuan Void Stage, Yuan Emperor Stage, and Yuan Zong Stage. Once one reached the Yuan Zong Stage, one would be able to affect the rules of space and form a domain that belonged solely to oneself. Many people had only reached the origin ancestor realm after spending their entire lives trying. As the origin ancestor realm masters, they were already top experts in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. Even Elder Su and Elder Lu were at the 9th level of the origin ancestor realm, and were still some distance away from reaching the half-step origin domain realm. Moreover, there were very few people who could cultivate to the origin domain realm. They were existences that were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns in the entire 10 forces. Yunjing had actually reached the origin domain realm at the young age of 20. How could they not be afraid? It was said that once one reached the origin domain realm, one would be able to explore the heavenly Tao and move mountains and seas. One would possess the ability to reach the heavens, and one would be able to transform freely within one's domain. One would become the master of the spatial laws and completely control the laws. However, to this day, no one knew what the realm above the origin domain realm was, and whether there was a limit to one's martial cultivation, and no one had reached it. It was said that demons had heavenly tribulations, while demons had reincarnation. No one in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean could give an accurate answer as to what kind of trials and tribulations humans would experience. If Su-Yi could wake up now, he would most likely faint from shock. Previously, Yunjing had borrowed the power of the wood spirit crystal to save Su-Yi, and her cultivation had dropped by a large realm. That was why Su-Yi had been able to pry into Yunjing's realm and mistakenly thought that she was only at the 1st level of the origin ancestor realm. Now, because she had refined the crimson water sky crystal, her cultivation had recovered and actually returned to the legendary origin domain realm. Moreover, she had even made a huge breakthrough. When she heard that, there was no trace of joy in Yunjing's eyes. Instead, there was some sadness in them. So what if I'm at the origin domain realm? So what if I've made a breakthrough? I'd rather retreat to the origin ancestor realm and stay by his side. Yunjing thought in her heart as a sense of sadness rolled over her like waves. Eldest young lady, I can feel that your blood soul seal is missing. Why is it? Little Black Robe was panting heavily and his anxiety was evident in his words. After some thought, he immediately knelt down and asked in a low voice. Yunjing raised her eyes slightly, her expression frosty as she replied coldly, "How did you know?" Little Black Robe paused and took out a blood soul seal jade pendant. He lowered his head and said, "When I left a few years ago, the Honorable Lord sent someone to hand this jade pendant to me. He ordered us to bring you home, no matter what if the blood soul seal disappeared again. No wonder Grandmother Yura left me 3 drops of blood." Yunjing suddenly understood. All the little black robes behind her knelt down. They were extremely terrified as they stared at Yunjing anxiously and muttered softly, "That's right. Eldest young lady, please come home with us. Eldest young lady, the Honorable Lord is very worried about you. All these years, he has sent us a summons every month. We were afraid that you would be unhappy, so we never dared to tell you. Eldest young lady, if the blood soul seal disappears and we can't bring you home within 10 days, we will all die." Bang! Yunjing's long sleeves shook as she took a light step forward. True Qi surged out from her body and a halo of energy shot out. The vast and turbulent water attribute energy shook the sky and earth. Winds and clouds surged in midair as thunder boomed. "How dare they?" Yunjing reprimanded angrily. The little black robes felt the aura from Yunjing's body and were extremely shocked. Previously, when Yunjing's strength was at the 1st stage of the origin domain realm, she would not have such a majestic water attribute energy with just a raise of her hand. What a strong water attribute energy, eldest young lady. The little black robes knelt down on the ground. Such a huge pressure made them unable to raise their bodies. Boom! Seeing everyone's reaction, Yunjing seemed to be frightened by her own vast aura. Her figure was graceful as she immediately retracted her yuan qi. She quickly regained her composure and said softly, I know, I will go back with you. You all leave first. I will catch up with you all at the Imperial Palace's secret teleportation station later. Everyone was extremely happy when they heard this. However, the yellow-haired little black-robed man's eyes glowed as he took a step forward and probed. Eldest young lady, is there anything else? Do you need me to help you deal with it? There are some things that are better done by subordinates. Yun Jing's jade-green ripples immediately rippled as she replied, No need. This matter has to be done by me. You all leave first. The yellow-haired little black robe looked meaningfully in the direction Yun Jing came from. He felt that there was a familiar aura there. After pondering for a moment, he ordered everyone, Go! Eldest young lady knows what to do. Whoosh whoosh. Just as he finished speaking, the yellow-haired little black robe brought everyone and left quickly. Yun Jing took a deep look at the cave Su-yi was in and said softly, Su-yi, I hope we can meet again. Immediately after, Yun Jing also left the vast forest and turned into a wisp of light as she flew into the distance. At this moment, within the cave, the sound of water droplets was endless. The moist air was like a dreamy bubble, like a beautiful dream. Chapter 1569. On the top of the cave, the water droplets that had gathered continuously dripped onto Su-yi's face. As he gradually opened his eyes, the light that shone in from outside the cave made Su-yi frown. His body that was still burning hot was extremely dehydrated. Su-yi swallowed his saliva and realized that he was in a cave. The air was filled with the fragrance of a young girl, like an orchid. It was very pleasant to the nose. The memories from before gradually surged into his mind. Su-yi used his hand to shake his head. That beautiful and dreamy soft body still caused his imagination to run wild. He suddenly became alert and opened his mouth to call out, Jing air. Looking around, Yun Jing's figure was nowhere to be seen. In the narrow cave, there was only the unconscious Wang Chuanda. Before Yun Jing left, she had already released Wang Chuanda. Looking at Wang Chuanda, he saw that his face was covered in blood. He had lost his left arm and both his legs were crippled due to excessive bleeding. He was extremely pitiful. Su-yi suddenly sneered. Looking at himself again, he was covered by a thin layer of robe. He lifted the robe and saw that he was naked. His head immediately heated up and he muttered, Could it be that what happened before was not a dream? Just as he was about to get up, a few strands of long hair beside him floated down. Su-yi grabbed them in the air. They were Yun Jing's long hair. And on the ground there were a few drops of red that were like red plum blossoms in the snow. It was instantly eye-catching. Boom! Su-yi suddenly activated his chi of vitality. The Origin Supreme technique spun rapidly like a gear. The chi of vitality in the Great Void Spirit was already extremely abundant at this time. Divine brilliance surged and the 4 different attributes of chi of vitality surrounded his body. Among them, the water attribute radiance was extremely dazzling. It was as blue as the divine light of the deep sea. The surging waves seemed to have transcended the heavens and the earth, condensing into a giant whirlpool in front of Su-yi, pushing out layers upon layers of waves, causing the entire cave to shake incessantly. Countless flying ashes fell down. Such an understatement of the enormous power generated by such a huge move made Su-yi speechless. Within his wide meridians, yuan qi surged out from his fingertip. With a wave of his hand, the wall was immediately pierced through, forming an extremely deep hole. Peeking into his mind, Su-yi could feel that his aura and cultivation base had reached a whole new level. The energy spreading around him caused the void to hum. 4th level of the Origin Emperor Realm, close to the 5th level of the Origin Emperor Realm? Su-yi couldn't help but shudder in fear. Did Yun Jing really help him refine the Crimson Water Heavenly Crystal? You didn't get as many benefits as that girl did. The iron soulfish saw that Su-yi had already woken up and was lying in the entryway with his eyes closed, as carefree as ever. Su-yi frowned and looked around. The iron soulfish's aura was also much stronger than before. He exclaimed, "Where's Yunjing? Where is she? What are you yelling at me for? If it wasn't for that girl sacrificing herself to save you, my old Tai would have disappeared with you. You're still yelling here. Old Tai, hurry up and tell me where she went." Su-yi couldn't wait any longer. He casually took out a brocade robe from his interspatial bag and put it on before rushing out of the cave. Zing! The morning sun was strong. The golden light was like a sharp arrow that shot onto Su-yi's face. The warm light made Su-yi feel very uncomfortable. Yunjing! Yunjing! Su-yi spread out his spiritual senses. Amidst the whistling mountain winds, the aura of a fourth-level origin emperor realm fully extended. However, he couldn't sense Yunjing's figure at all. "Don't waste your efforts. She's already gone." The iron soulfish sighed. Su-yi's gaze trembled. He was extremely disappointed and muttered, "Why didn't you stop her? I have a lot of things that I haven't told her. Why did she leave?" After saying that, he walked into the cave dejectedly and sat down absent-mindedly. He held the clothes that Yunjing had left behind and remained silent. "The energy in your body is very strange." Yunjing used her primordial body to refine the crimson water heavenly crystal to help you get through the crisis. Although both of you have made some achievements, what she had to endure was much more than you could imagine. Moreover, because of... The iron soulfish didn't finish his sentence and continued. Because Yunjing had saved him, the number of wood soul crystals she could use was limited. The iron soulfish felt that it would be better for Yunjing to tell him personally about the consequences. In any case, leaving you temporarily is the best choice for her. At least for now, you're not worthy of her. The iron soulfish's gaze was sharp and solemn. "What do you know? Then what are you hiding?" the iron soulfish asked in return. Su-yi was at a loss for words. He didn't know where to start. The backlash from the mysterious ball of light was so severe that it was beyond his imagination. "I don't know either. I've been carrying it since I was young." Su-yi's bewildered eyes contained a hint of coldness. Su-yi couldn't explain these things. Was he supposed to tell the iron soulfish that he came from Earth, and that he already had this mysterious brick-like ball of light when he was on Earth? Su-yi wanted to know the origins of all these things, and he had to put them on the agenda and find out as soon as possible. Ahem. Su-yi remained silent for a long time. The iron soulfish broke the silence and comforted him. "If it's fated, you'll meet. I bet that the two of you are bound tightly together. The prerequisite is that you have to be strong enough. You have to be able to stand in front of her with your head held high." Hearing this, Su-yi's lips curled into a smile. He was slightly relieved and said with a smile, "Old Tai, you didn't live for 10,000 years in vain." Su-yi immediately thought it through. When he first met Yunjing, she often said that she wanted to bring him home, and also talked about the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Presumably, he would be able to see Yunjing when he arrived at the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. "Alright, I'll get stronger as soon as possible. I want to see Yunjing as soon as possible." Su-yi was startled and regained his confidence. After saying that, Su-yi stood up, and the air around him surged again. The strength of a fourth-layer origin emperor was much stronger than a second-layer origin emperor. With this sudden increase in strength and the trip to the Heavenly Palace, Su-yi believed that Su-yi would be able to obtain good results in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. "And work hard from now on. Kid, you still have a long way to go. This world will change because of you." The iron soulfish's eyes drooped, as if he was about to fall asleep. "Poochie." Su-yi's mood instantly improved. Just as he was about to praise the iron soulfish, he heard a slight snoring sound from the entrance. "This old fellow." Sigh. Su-yi immediately shook his head and smiled bitterly. Other than being a demonic creature, it was no different from ordinary demonic beasts. In fact, it was even more sensible. As if recalling something, Su-Yi took out a glazed treasure box from his spatial bag. The 9 orifices returned to sun leaf inside received the sunlight and seemed to be bursting with vitality. It jumped from the corner to the side of Su-Yi and bowed to greet him. Chapter 1570. You little thing, you're really smart. Did you know I was looking for you? Su-Yi smiled faintly. Thinking of the mysterious space, Su-Yi's eyes lit up. Any kind of spirit herb could be grown in the herb field, and even the profound spirit tree could grow stronger. Wouldn't this little leaf grow into a 9 orifices return to Yang Forest in the future? Ha ha ha! Su-Yi couldn't help but feel excited when he thought of this idea. Carrying the colored glass treasure box, he walked towards the unconscious Wang Chuanda in the corner and stomped heavily on Wang Chuanda's legs. Ah! Wang Chuanda's bloodshot eyes suddenly opened wide, as if he was in a dream. When he saw Su-Yi's figure, a look of panic immediately crept onto his face. It's you. You're Su-Yi. What are you doing? Wang Chuanda's left hand clawed at the ground with great difficulty, blood dripping from his fingertips as he crawled towards the entrance of the cave. Wang Chuanda, who only had one arm, dragged his legs and wriggled like a lowly insect, seeking the hope of survival. Every time Wang Chuanda struggled to crawl an inch, Su-Yi's palms would flash with an icy blue light, blasting an extremely deep hole an inch in front of Wang Chuanda's body. The enormous power made Wang Chuanda's entire body tremble. It was a ghastly sight to behold. Looking at the astonishing strength in front of him, Wang Chuanda's eyes trembled slightly. He sucked in a breath of cold air, and a feeling of goosebumps rose up his spine. Ah! After a few times, Wang Chuanda panted like a cow and collapsed on the ground like a bellows, giving up on crawling. His face was covered with deep wrinkles, and his cheeks were sunken, making him look like a monster that was neither human nor ghost. Su-Yi, if you want to kill me then kill me, don't humiliate this old man here. This old man would rather die than submit. Su-Yi sneered, the scene of him being humiliated by Wang Chuanda once again flashing through his mind. At that time, Wang Chuanda's sinister and mocking face was like that of a clown, constantly encouraging Su-Yi to work hard for revenge. Suddenly, endless anger and surging fighting spirit surged into Su-Yi's heart. That old thing sure has a backbone. A cold light rose. Su-Yi's eyes darkened, and a roar burst out from his throat. All right, let me see how long your backbone can last. The primordial chi under Su-Yi's feet rose abruptly. Like a flowing fire, he brought Wang Chuanda to the edge of the cliff. The waterfall that flowed down kept wetting Wang Chuanda's clothes. Gradually, he revealed a look of horror. The strong are respected and the weak are prey to the strong. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for being too weak. Su-Yi's lips curled into a smile. Wang Chuanda and Su-Yi were all too familiar with this sentence. Today, Su-Yi returned it to Wang Chuanda in its entirety, allowing Wang Chuanda to become a fish on the chopping block. The mountain peak was bitterly cold and incomparably fierce. It was like a sharp knife scraping across one's face, causing pain. Su-Yi's robe and hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were filled with anger as he tightly clutched Wang Chuanda's neck. Su-Yi had been climbing for too long today. The flames of revenge were like an erupting volcano, gushing out layer by layer with monstrous hatred. Immediately, his right foot heavily stepped on Wang Chuanda's head. Wang Chuanda was pressed tightly against the ground. His incomparably weathered face had been completely scraped by the gravel, dripping with blood. There was not a single place that was intact, and the rotten flesh was so deep that the bones could be seen. Su-Yi, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Wang Chuanda's eyes were fierce as he looked at Su-Yi, the hatred in his eyes overflowing to the sky. Wang Chuanda, do you still remember what I said? If I didn't die that day, I would cut you into pieces. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Good. Very good. After saying that, Su Yi's knuckles were pressed so hard that crackling sounds could be heard. His laughter was full of carefreeness and arrogance. Bang! Su Yi stomped heavily on Wang Chuanda's skull. Instantly, a slight cracking sound could be heard, followed by a series of painful groans. The immense force exerted caused Wang Chuanda's eyes to become unfocused. He was on the verge of death. Wang Chuanda, let me tell you, I am the justice. Do you still remember the cliff? Today, I will let you have a taste of falling off the cliff, Su Yi said coldly. His deep eyes quietly emerged a crimson color. Every word seemed to come from the roots of his teeth. The cold air was turbulent, and he was like a blood-red god of death. The surging murderous aura shrouded Wang Chuanda's body, and he couldn't help but shudder. Boom! Su Yi's eyes were fierce. He roared in his heart. He lifted his right foot and suddenly stomped down. The incomparably heavy force directly smashed into Wang Chuanda's body like a cannonball. Pooh! Wang Chuanda's internal organs were squeezed into a ball, and a large amount of blood spurted out. His vision turned black, and he fell down from the cliff like a kite with a broken string. Who? Su Yi's eyes shone brightly. His palms stretched out continuously, and a matchless fire attribute light burst out from his palms. It was like a scarlet dragon that struck the forest below. Rumble! Like a fiery storm, it directly exploded in the forest. The red fiery whirlpool released a monstrous shockwave, and a series of sonic booms rang out. In an instant, the temperature of the entire forest rose, and all the plants in the forest were burned to ashes. Countless low-level barbaric beasts rushed out from the messy valley. Wang Chuanda gritted his teeth and looked at the hellish forest below him. If he fell down, even if his body wasn't smashed into pieces, he would still be turned into a pile of ashes. Awoo! The beasts roared continuously, and the sea of flames trembled. You want to die? Not so easy. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a cold light. The accumulated anger in his heart was completely released at this moment. Following which, Su Yi's feet surged with a ray of fire elemental energy. He lightly stepped out with the Fuyao 100 transformation steps, like a butterfly circling in a dream, and with a turn of his body, he threw the unconscious Wang Chuanda up. The savage beasts below bared their fangs, and their roars shook the heavens. The bloody atmosphere had stimulated their primitive bestial instincts, and they charged towards the direction where Wang Chuanda had fallen. The scene was extremely thrilling, and a terrifying cycle of reincarnation. Old fogey, you haven't redeemed your sins yet. Su Yi looked coldly at the unconscious Wang Chuanda with disdain. Bam! Carrying Wang Chuanda, Su Yi returned to the cave and used Cloud Shadow Treading Frost to seal the entrance of the cave. Boom! A mysterious space opened up in the cave, and extremely dense Ling Qi gushed out. It was as though the energy had traveled through the ancient times, and was spiraling rapidly in the sky. Su Yi felt as though a mysterious energy was flowing through his body, and he felt extremely comfortable. The scene that entered his eyes caused Su Yi to be even more astonished. Putting down the colored glass treasure box and Wang Chuanda, Su Yi looked at the vast and mysterious space. It was already difficult for him to use his consciousness to estimate the size of the space. Chapter 1571. And what made Su Yi feel even more strange was that there was a new change at the side of the spiritual pool. With a light step, a few afterimages flashed past in the air, and Su Yi directly came to the side of the spiritual liquid pool. An incomparably azure crimson heavenly crystal, which was suffused with mystical runes, was currently spinning in the air above the first spirit liquid pool. The spinning radiance, together with the rapidly moving icicles, caused the entire space to become even more sacred and mighty. An incomparably mighty and domineering aura spread out invisibly. Su Yi's mind instantly trembled, and a giant radish demonic beast rushed out from the herb field at the side and said excitedly to Su Yi, "Little Su, you're so lucky! So lucky! How did the crimson water crystal appear here?" "Grandpa Ginseng, you know a lot. You even know about the crimson water crystal." Su Yi's eyes were filled with astonishment as he spoke absent-mindedly. He opened his mouth and didn't pay attention to what the blood jasper Ginseng said at all. "Even if I refined the crimson water crystal, how did it appear in my own mysterious space?" Su Yi's heart was filled with questions. A faint voice gradually appeared in Su Yi's mind as it said with a huge yawn, "What if this thing was born here in the first place and you just found it?" Zeng! A bolt of lightning flashed across Su Yi's mind. Looking at the crimson water crystal that was as dazzling as the clouds, the illusory images alternated between light and dark. Su Yi's mind instantly felt like it was about to sink into oblivion. The scorching temperature gradually rose again, and a surge of battle intent surged continuously. Walala! The energy around him whistled and fluctuated like ripples, carrying a domineering and majestic aura. Looking at the crimson water crystal above the spiritual liquid pool, Su Yi's eyes were filled with even more bewilderment, and he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his back. It belonged here in the first place? This thought was too bold and simply inconceivable. Could it be that the mysterious space is related to the Seven Heaven Crystal? The Seven Heaven Crystal is also an item left behind by a god, and this mysterious space is also a god's item? Thinking about it carefully, this wasn't impossible. It had always been Su Yi who brought things from the outside world into the space. It was the first time that things from the outside world had appeared in the space. Inside the space, there was only this small pool of spiritual liquid and this medicinal field that he had cultivated. There was nothing else. Boom! Su Yi felt as though he was being electrocuted. He muttered, "A spiritual liquid pool corresponds to a heaven crystal. Then, there should be another heaven crystal in the second spiritual liquid pool. Perhaps that's the case, but it's already not bad for this continent to have one heaven crystal. Let's take it slow. Perhaps once we gather all the sky crystals, we'll be able to find the origin of your mysterious space." The iron soulfish said softly. Su Yi muttered. Gently raising his eyes, the incomparably vigorous energy between the heavens and the earth surged like layers upon layers of waves. Clanging sounds resounded in the air as wind and thunder rumbled. The imposing manner was extremely grand. "Grandpa Ginseng, how did you break through again?" Su Yi felt a little strange. The mediocre Jasper blood spirit Ginseng had actually risen by 2 levels in such a short period of time, reaching the 8th level of the demonic illusionary stage. The Jasper blood spirit Ginseng's roots fluttered. At this moment, it had become much larger than before, reaching as high as Su Yi's shoulder. If the bystanders or demonic beasts saw it, they would probably drool. Their thick whiskers were even emitting a brilliant light. They were extremely excited. "Kid, this space of yours is really a treasure. I know that you must have had some fortuitous encounter outside. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a big change here every once in a while." Su Yi shook his head and smiled bitterly. He pointed at the 9 orifices returned to Sunleaf in the treasure box in the distance and said softly, "Grandpa Ginseng, do you know this little leaf?" The Jasper blood spirit Ginseng narrowed its eyes. With a wave of its hand, it strode over to the treasure box. Its eyes shone brightly as it said in surprise, "Kid, you even got the 9 orifices returned to Sunleaf's prime leaf?" The prime leaf was the most tender among the returned to sun leaves. It was the one that grew the best. It could be transplanted and grafted to become another complete 9 orifices returned to sun leaf. Su Yi was immediately overjoyed. He thought to himself, Jing and the others really know how to choose. They actually found the prime leaf of the 9 orifices returned to sun leaf. Grandpa Ginseng, you know about this? Where can I find the moon-devouring Bodhi goo? Do you have any ideas? Su Yi's eyes shone brightly. He couldn't wait to help Ling Qianxue recover her body. The jasper blood spirit ginseng touched its chin with its hands that were full of whiskers. It said, "This little thing is still very tender. A complete 9 orifices returned to sun leaf is incomparably huge. Just each leaf alone has a total of 9 veins. This little leaf still has to be left here to grow." After hearing this, Su Yi took a deep breath. He was like a deflated balloon. As expected, there was still a long way to go. "All right, Grandpa Ginseng, I'll leave this little leaf to you. Please take care of it. I'll definitely thank you greatly." Is there a need to talk about the word "thank you" between us? The jasper blood spirit ginseng curled its lips. It thought to itself, "Don't look down on me just because my cultivation is low. I'm also a person who values loyalty." After that, Su Yi glanced at the 2 small pools of spiritual liquid again. Even the crimson water heavenly crystal had appeared. The surrounding land was still dry, and there were no signs of overflowing from the small pools. "Kid, it's all over there." Knowing Su Yi's thoughts, the jasper blood spirit ginseng put its hands on its waist and pointed proudly at the place where the spiritual medicine weapons were placed. It said, "I saw that the spiritual liquid was about to overflow. It's a pity, so I used bottles to store it for you. There are more than 1,000 bottles of various sizes. I'm exhausted." Su Yi looked in the direction of the bottle and was stunned. It was like a wall that was placed neatly. His gaze trembled as he bowed to the jasper blood spirit ginseng. "Grandpa Ginseng has worked hard. From now on, you can use the spiritual liquid here as you wish. I'll need Grandpa Ginseng to take care of this place in the future." "That's not a problem. If it continues like this, my tribulation will come soon. The spiritual liquid is exactly the time I need it." The jasper blood spirit ginseng didn't stand on ceremony and said happily, "The demonic emperor realm was an unattainable dream for a spiritual medicine-type beast. Now, thanks to Su Yi, the jasper blood spirit ginseng was naturally happy to take care of this place." After that, Su Yi handed over all the spatial bags he took from the 100 Herbs Mountain to the jasper blood spirit ginseng. Of course, in order to prevent the mysterious space from devouring the energy of the crystals, Su Yi kept the origin stones and soul-testing origin crystals in the spatial bags. The jasper blood spirit ginseng was shocked again. There were so many books on cultivation techniques, martial skills, array diagrams, spiritual medicine, and spiritual medicine. It said softly, "Kid, did you rob a second-class sex treasury?" The 100 Herbs Mountain had 10,000 years of foundation. Compared to ordinary second-class sex, it was even better. Su Yi smiled and didn't say anything. "Oh right, Grandpa Ginseng, I have a request." Su Yi pointed at Wang Chuanda, who was lying on the ground, and said angrily. Chapter 1572. This guy has a blood feud with me. I once said that I would cut him into 1,000 pieces, but now is not the time to kill him. I want him to taste the pain of the heavenly thunder in this mysterious space. When the time comes, I will let him go see King Yama. I understand what you mean. The blood jasper ginseng had already seen Su Yi's methods of messing with people. Immediately, an evil smile appeared on its face. Boom! The roots of the blood jade spirit ginseng danced in the air, and a divine radiance rippled out. A majestic medicinal power spread out and entered Wang Chuanda's body. As soon as Wang Chuanda opened his eyes, he saw an incomparably large radish looking at him with an evil smile. His legs were already crippled, and his only remaining arm was lying on the ground because of his imbalance. His eyes constantly drifted, and his pupils shrank as he looked at the spiritual power that seemed to have crossed the heavens and earth. Where is this? Am I dead? Bang! The tentacle flew and hit Wang Chuanda's wound like a long whip. The wound that had already scabbed over began to bleed again, and Wang Chuanda's body shook violently from the pain. "Die your grandma! Look carefully at who this is." The blood jasper ginseng was not polite at all. Su Yi's enemy was Grandpa Ginseng's enemy. Su Yi's yuan qi surged, and his hair danced in the wind. His temperament was extremely domineering as he approached Wang Chuanda with a smile on his face, as if he was looking down on ants. "You're not dead yet? You are indeed a tough nut to crack." Wang Chuanda's heart skipped a beat as he looked around. The spiritual energy in front of him was incomparably rich and rich. There was a mist of energy everywhere, and the boundless space was enshrouded in divine light. A majestic aura slowly fluctuated, as if it had crossed the ancient times and descended here. Where is this? There is actually such a place in this world. The vast and boundless energy caused Wang Chuanda's eyes to flicker with shock. Su Yi was all smiles as he crossed his arms and said, "Didn't you always want to know what kind of secret treasure I have? I didn't bring you here." Immediately, Su Yi's hand shook and Yuan Qi trembled. Fire attribute Yuan Qi suddenly whistled out, and the surging Yuan Qi shot towards Wang Chuanda's lower abdomen. Bang! Yuan Qi stirred, and the world was filled with a blazing aura. It emitted a dense light, mysterious and unpredictable. A huge energy wave appeared around Wang Chuanda, spreading out in all directions like a ripple. Wang Chuanda's eyes immediately became unfocused and lifeless, his entire body deflating like a punctured ball. Su Yu. At this moment, Wang Chuanda's Dantian spirit sea was like a broken water tank. All of his Yuan Qi flowed along his meridians and turned into Yuan Qi light threads, merging into the vast spirit Qi of heaven and earth and disappearing. Only Wang Chuanda, who'd curled up like a prawn, remained, and he lay tightly on the ground with an extremely unsightly expression. His hair was disheveled, his face dirty, his body covered in blood, and strands of cold air ceaselessly emanated from the roots of his teeth. "Su Yi, why didn't you kill me? Why didn't you kill me?" Su Yi shook his head and said in a deep voice, "For some people, death is a kind of release. For you, you must suffer a fate worse than death. Do you want to die? Death also requires courage." Like a crazy lion, Wang Chuanda stared at Su Yi, his whole body trembling. At this time, he truly felt what was called the law of the jungle, and the strong were respected. What kind of stupid mistake did he make in the past? What kind of demon did he provoke? "Su Yi, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." Wang Chuanda was extremely sinister. Bang! The blood jade spirit ginseng's face was full of disdain. Its roots with the sound of wind and thunder once again hit Wang Chuanda's body, and it angrily said, "You're about to die and you're still yelling here. You're the kind of human that I hate the most. Just one look and I can tell that you're not a good person." Finished speaking, the long roots wrapped around Wang Chuanda like a dragon and placed him in the place with the densest spirit Qi of heaven and earth. Wang Chuanda's face was ashen from the pain, and his face was blank. His mouth was still chattering nonstop, loudly cursing Su Yi. Rumble! In the mysterious space, a hazy light surged, and a thick dark cloud suddenly condensed. Visible to the naked eye, the sound of thunder was loud, and streaks of red lightning bolts brazenly struck down like a thunder dragon. At this moment, Wang Chuanda really closed his mouth. His resentful eyes were filled with shock and panic, and his trembling body was like a frightened little bird under the thunder clouds. Bang, bang, bang! 3 streaks of red lightning continuously fell down, and all of them hit Wang Chuanda's body. Originally, there were only a few places with good skin, but with the bombardment of the lightning, the skin on his back was torn open, and blood gushed out, revealing the white bones. Poochie! Another lightning bolt fell from the sky, carrying a destructive aura, directly hit Wang Chuanda's body. Immediately, a mouthful of blood poured out, and his body was like charcoal. It was too horrible to look at, and it was a ghastly sight. He had already fainted again. Scream. Aren't you very good at screaming? Try to scold me again. Heavenly lightning will strike you to death, you bastard. The blood jasper spirit ginseng cursed, but it still wasn't satisfied. It stretched out its tentacles and struck twice more. As Wang Chuanda fainted, the mysterious space quieted down again, and the lightning that filled the sky calmed down as if it had a spirit of its own. Sui frowned as he looked at Wang Chuanda, who was coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Black smoke continuously rose from the surroundings, and fresh blood filled the air. Grandpa Ginseng, you didn't beat him to death, did you? The blood jasper spirit ginseng waved its hand and said, even if his cultivation is destroyed, the physical strength of the Origin Emperor realm won't let him die so easily, as long as his mouth isn't dirty. Then, the blood jasper spirit ginseng flicked its beard, which rippled with dense demonic aura. It smiled and said, don't you know what Grandpa Ginseng does? After saving him, I'll let him suffer the heavenly lightning strikes. Hearing that, Sui couldn't help but laugh. He said loudly, all right, Grandpa Ginseng, I'll leave this place to you. When the time comes, I'll bring him out. And, little handsome, don't worry, it won't be so fast. How many years does a mortal live? It's an ancient great demon. Sui nodded and kept the mysterious space. He returned to the cave and looked at the blue robe in his hand. A young lady's fragrance seeped into his nose again. Holding it tightly, Sui's eyes became clear and resolute. He said in a deep voice, Yunjing, one day I'll stand in front of you with incomparable strength. Whoosh, whoosh. Sui looked at the bright sky. Amidst the proud wind, an aura of heaven and earth that was free for him to roam was born. He embraced the heavens, and his heart was filled with daydreams of the future. Avenging Wang Chuanda is only the first step. I still have to flatten the sacred mountain. I want to completely erase the sacred mountain from this continent. The pleasure that he hadn't enjoyed for a long time made Sui feel invigorated. He looked in the direction of the Chaos region and thought that it would be great if Merciless West was here. At this moment, I'm going to enjoy my life. Pleasure in repaying gratitude and revenge. I'll gallop. Chapter 1573. Looking up at the blue sky, Sui thought to himself, Miss Li and Ah Chu should be waiting anxiously. I have to hurry to Xinjian Gate. Let's go. Boom. A wisp of yuan qi light emerged from the bottom of Sui's feet. The fire attribute footwork faintly flashed out, streaking across the air, and sprinting in the direction of Xinjian Gate. Somewhere, between the green hills and the water, the scenery on both sides of the river was like an ink-splashed landscape that stretched for hundreds of miles. Mountain peaks and waves surged, layers upon layers of mountains, fascinating. The 1,000 peaks were like an enormous hand that had stretched out to embrace the mountains and plains, and they meandered along the mountain ridges. The river water was like a mighty and awe-inspiring golden dragon that coiled around, and its imposing aura was peerlessly powerful. The river water pierced through the mountains and broke through the walls. It was like a wild beast galloping. The clamoring river water carried a divine aura that soared into the heavens as it traveled for tens of thousands of miles. From the bottom to the top, the small mountain was like a sharp knife, with a few strands of milky white mist, like golden flowers standing proudly in the clouds. It was filled with layers upon layers of pavilions and pavilions. Magnificent and magnificent jade palaces could be seen everywhere, like tiny strips of light. The cliff that looked like it had been carved by a knife or an axe was indomitable, and the huge sect stood below it. At this time, a large wave of bright golden light rushed over from afar. It walked on the waves and arrived gracefully. The leader of the group was none other than the 100 Herb Academy's principal, Xianyuan Li Sunday. Behind him was a group of 100 Herb Academy's deacons, Shin Mo, Lu Sier, and the others. Each of them had a worried look on their face as they stood at the entrance. "Dean, should we wait here for the summons, or should we go directly to apologize?" one of them asked respectfully, his legs slightly trembling. Looking at the towering mountains in the sky, the deacon standing next to him felt his heart tremble. A chill ran down his spine, and his legs began to tremble uncontrollably. Xianyuan Emperor's grandson was also full of sadness. He shook his robe and said with a dignified expression, "You are a bunch of idiot. What else can we do now?" Elder Su and Elder Lu left so quickly. "I'm afraid that the Lord has already known about it." "My lord!" When they heard this name, everyone including Shen Mo, Lu Sier, and the others were terrified to the point their faces turned ashen, and their pupils constricted as they were extremely shocked. "Let's go. Bring a bramble and ask for punishment. Don't let the heavenly venerable descend upon 100 Herb Mountain, or else we will all die." Xianyuan Emperor's face was frosty, and a cold aura surged like a cold wave. Deng deng deng. Everyone heaved a deep sigh, all of them praying in their hearts. Then, with heavy footsteps, they stepped through the shining golden gate of the holy mountain. Inside the holy mountain, there was a richly ornamented hall that was filled with golden light. Elder Su and Elder Lu stood in the middle of the hall with serious expressions on their faces. They seemed to be arguing about something. Elder Su's voice was getting louder and louder. "Don't try to persuade me. I, Su Jingping, have waited here for so long, and not a single person has come out. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. How much had I suffered along the way? Do you still want to be bullied here? I'm telling you, Lu Feng, I, Su Ke, am not worthy of being shouted at by the Xiahong house. Tell me, what did he do on the way here? I would like to ask the Lord why he sent us to protect such a little kid. What's the meaning of that? He's an outsider, and he doesn't think for the holy mountain, but I, an old man, still have to think for the holy mountain." Elder Lu heard Elder Su's voice getting louder and louder, and his face suddenly sank. He was somewhat displeased and shook his robe heavily. "Elder Su, we're all old people. What should be said and what should not be said, don't you know? The matter of the fifth holy son, the Lord will naturally make the decision. Don't you know where you are? How can you make such a big fuss? You are an old man, what a joke." Elder Su's face was red, and his white beard was fluttering. But now, he calmed down a little. He knew that he was in the wrong, so he stopped shouting and sat down silently. Elder Lu took a deep breath, walked to Elder Su's side and said softly, "Elder Su, we have been in the holy mountain all our lives. Naturally, we have the best interests of the holy mountain. The Lord's heart is as clear as a mirror, and there is no need for others to criticize him. But this time, perhaps the fifth holy son is still young, so he has no scruples and acted recklessly. When we meet the Lord later, we have to think carefully about what we say." Then, Elder Lu added in a low voice, "The holy mountain is chaotic. I have already transcended the worldly affairs and shouldn't care. But I also shouldn't take the initiative to get involved. If we say this, we will inadvertently support that." Elder Lu's words were like pearls, and his words made Elder Su frown again. In the eyes of outsiders, the 9 holy sons and 9 holy daughters were the most powerful people under the age of 40 in the holy mountain. They were the 18 people that the Lord cared about the most. However, only the top powerhouses of the holy mountain knew clearly that one of the holy sons was the most unique existence, and that was the 5th holy son of the Xiahong house. The 5th holy son was brought back by the Lord halfway. He was arrogant, unscrupulous, and bold. His strength was unparalleled among his peers, so the Lord never blamed him. He was even favored by the Lord, but at the same time, he had been criticized by the people of the holy mountain. Everyone guessed that the reason why the Lord favored the fifth Holy Son was because of his extremely high talent and endless potential. He was really a genius, and the other reason was because of his mysterious background. In the Holy Mountain, the fifth Holy Son had always been a topic that was forbidden to be mentioned. The fifth Holy Son had always been heavily protected by the Lord, and he had never been allowed to participate in any large-scale events. The strangest thing was that the Lord had always adopted an attitude of allowing the fifth Holy Son to cultivate. It seemed that the fifth Holy Son was already invincible among his peers in the Holy Mountain with his own strength. Compared to the first Holy Son, who was already 35 years old, the Xiahong House, who was not even 30 years old, was much more outstanding than the first Holy Son at that time. Elder Su, remember that we are only going to the Chaos region according to the Lord's order. As for how to express other things, Elder Su should know more than I do, Elder Lu said as he glanced at the figure in the corner. At this moment, a graceful middle-aged woman walked out from the side hall. She had a dignified temperament. She did not wear any makeup, but her skin color was like the morning sun reflecting on the snow. Her long yellow dress was very fitting for her figure, and she had a mature charm. She was the Lord's personal servant, Deacon Rong. She had heard everything that the two of them were talking about. Deacon Rong, good health and bliss. Deacon Rong also bowed slightly and pretended that she did not hear anything. She made a gesture to guide the two of them and said, "Both of you have been running back and forth, and the Lord has specially allowed both of you to rest here. I did not expect you to cause such a commotion." Elder Su and Elder Lu did not say anything. They looked at each other awkwardly and cupped their hands. In the face of Deacon Rong's gentle but forceful questioning, the two of them were not angry. Instead, they were even more frightened. Chapter 1574. This was because Deacon Rong was the sacred sovereign's personal servant and had followed him for many years. Her status in the sacred mountain was not something an ordinary person could compare to. We were in a hurry and spoke without thinking. "Please forgive us, Deacon Rong. Please forgive us." Elder Su's face was slightly red. "The two of you, come with me." Deacon Rong's expression was cold. She didn't answer and directly walked inside. Along the way, Elder Su and Elder Lu's eyes flickered. The oppressive atmosphere was like a boulder pressing down on their hearts, making it hard for them to breathe. Both of them had white hair and were already top experts. However, before they even reached the sacred sovereign's place, they already felt an unprecedented pressure on their minds. In a flash, after passing through several winding stone paths, Elder Su and Elder Lu arrived in front of a simple and old stone door amidst the rising dust. The surrounding cliffs stood tall, surrounded by mountains and verdant greenery. Deacon Rong gently knocked on the door and bowed his head. "Sacred Sovereign, Elder Su and Elder Lu have returned." After a while, a clear sound of water dripping could be heard from inside the stone door. A faint and old female voice could be heard. "Elder Su, Elder Lu, what did you get from this trip?" Hearing the sacred sovereign's voice, Elder Su and Elder Lu's body trembled for no reason. When they were considering whether to tell her about the fifth saint's strange behavior in the Chaos realm, Elder Lu took over the topic and bowed respectfully. "Sacred Sovereign, this time, the 100-Herb Mountain suffered a great calamity because of Su-Yi. The fifth saint finally separated from us and went after the last crimson water, heavenly crystal." A moment later, the old voice became a bit forceful. The flying spirit birds in the surroundings immediately flew away as if they felt a boundless pressure. "Because of Su-Yi, you didn't come back. This Su-Yi made the entire 100-herb branch die with him, but the two of you came back safe and sound." "Sacred Sovereign, we actually..." The two elders couldn't express their bitterness. When they were in the Chaos realm, they had already proposed to destroy the Bawang sect, but they were stopped by Xiahong Pavilion. Who would have thought that Xiahong House would escape the surveillance of Elder Su and Elder Lu and leave on her own? In the end, it was discovered that she had been cultivating in the Spirit Treasure Tower for a period of time. In the 100-herb barrier, he didn't even say a word to help Ouyang Jinwei. For the sake of the crimson water heavenly crystal, he had rushed into the barrier to snatch it without a second thought. Actually, what? Could it be that the two of you have objections to my arrangement to protect the saint? I wouldn't dare. It's our duty to protect the Holy Sun. We wouldn't dare to say such things. Lu Feng was extremely respectful and humble. Inside the stone door, there was no sound for a long time. Elder Su's eyes lit up in embarrassment. However, during this trip, the fifth saint broke through to the second level of the Origin Emperor realm after reaching the Origin Void realm. Such strength and talent is truly the blessing of our holy mountain. Where is the fifth holy sun now? The Lord's old voice was filled with indifference. He did not seem to be surprised that the fifth holy sun's cultivation had improved so much. The corner of Elder Lu's mouth twitched as he looked at Elder Su with resentment. He was blaming him for leaving in such a hurry. If anything happened to the fifth holy sun, he would have to bear the consequences. Elder Su's face was ashen, and he didn't dare to say anything. Both of you can leave now. It's a waste to send the two of you to protect the fifth holy sun. Go to the Holy Spirit Mountain and rest for a year. Holy Spirit Mountain. The two of them looked at each other and their faces darkened. The Holy Spirit Mountain was the place where the holy mountains secluded themselves for cultivation. The implication was that they were grounded for a year and could not go out. Elder Lu hurriedly pulled the angry Elder Su out and comforted him softly. Be content. It's just a grounding. There's no other punishment. If the 100-herb mountain wants to blame it on us, you will suffer. Elder Su heard and nodded repeatedly. He was relieved and no longer bothered about it. The two of them turned into two rays of golden light and flew to the Holy Spirit Mountain. After the two of them left, Deacon Roan continued to face the stone door respectfully and whispered, Holy Sage, the grandson of Xianyuan Emperor of the 100-herb mountain, has brought his men to ask for punishment. How should we deal with this matter? He can't even deal with a little brat. His grandson of Xianyuan Emperor should disappear. Let the first Holy Sun and Elder Qin go. Yes. Deacon Roan whispered and went to give the order. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of water droplets was still echoing inside the stone door. A faint voice came from the sky again. Stinking brat has returned to the sect. Why don't you show yourself? Holy Sage. A woman's voice was faintly heard. Her voice was trembling. Old woman, I'm back. He saw a sexy and enchanting figure supporting a blood-stained figure as they walked in, trembling. It was Xiahong Lu and Li Ling, who had just returned from the heavenly crystal barrier. Li Ling heard Xiahong Lu call the Holy Sage, and her legs immediately went soft. She looked at Xiahong Lu in horror as if she was looking at a terrifying monster. Calling the Holy Sage like that was like courting death. Impudent. After so many years, you're still so unruly. I'm not from the Holy Mountain. What rules do I have? Xiahong Lu sneered and said softly. How dare you? Even if you're not from the Holy Mountain, you should know that the Holy Mountain has treated you well after giving you so much time. Xiahong Lu frowned and did not say anything else. What did you do in the Chaos region? Didn't I ask you to investigate it when you're stronger? The Holy Sage said. I think I'm strong enough. Xiahong Lu looked up. Her eyes were filled with hatred and murderous intent. Then who gave you this loss? You're overestimating yourself. The Holy Sage sneered, but there was a hint of relief. Boom! Inside the stone door, a domineering and destructive aura poured into Xiahong Lu like a tidal wave, causing the entire stone door to tremble. Poof! Li Ling felt a surge of blood in her chest, and she collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. She could only watch as Xiahong Lu spread out her yuan qi. However, she could feel that Xiahong Lu's aura had stabilized. The holy sage was actually healing Xiahong Lu. I almost got the crimson water heavenly crystal this time. Xiahong Lu's brows were filled with loneliness, and her eyes were filled with endless hatred. Is it that Su-yi? The holy sage's voice was a little hoarse. Yes, he's about the same age as the 9th holy maiden, but his cultivation is almost the same as mine. And at that time, his strength suddenly increased tremendously. It's really strange. Bring him back in the Tianfeng battle. I want to see if it has anything to do with that matter. With such talent, he was actually harmed by Wang Chuanda. The holy sage said softly. Alright, but what about Yuqi Changfeng in the Tianfeng battle? There's not much time left in the Tianfeng ranking battle for those under 35 years old. If you can't defeat him, it'll be hard for me to deal with him. The holy sage laughed and said softly. It was as if Xiahong Lu's injury had made the holy sage re-evaluate the two of them. Chapter 1575. That's why I'm going into seclusion. I'm already practicing your method, Xiahong Lu said in a deep voice. There was another moment of silence. The conversation between the two was like an intimate conversation between a grandmother and her grandson. There was no trace of the majesty of a sacred master. The rumored doting was actually like this. Li Ling was extremely shocked. Which elder do you belong to? The sacred master's voice was long and old. It was like the sound of a dead sea, without any emotion or color. Bang! Li Ling immediately stood up and kowtowed to the stone door. She said, Sacred Master, I'm the direct disciple of Elder Ing Changchun. I belong to the same faction. Okay. I'll tell Ing Changchun. From now on, you'll follow the 5th saint and take care of his daily needs. Old hag, what are you doing? Xiahong House's eyes flashed coldly. She glanced at Li Ling with displeasure. Li Ling was overjoyed when she heard that. However, her body could not help but tremble when she saw Xiahong Lu's reaction. If you die in less than half a month, Elder Mo has always looked down on you. Do you want me to collect your corpse? The sacred master said calmly. So what if I die? I'm destined to die early anyway. Then you can collect the corpse of this little servant girl. You can leave now. I'm tired. In other words, it was the first time Xiahong Lu brought a woman to see the sacred master. She had also heard so many things that she should not have heard. Other than serving the sacred master, Li Ling could only die. Boom. Then, the stone door slightly rumbled. The clear sound of water droplets could be heard. There was no response from inside the stone door. There was only a slight movement of dust. Xiahong Lu snorted angrily. A trace of hesitation flashed on his handsome face. He said to Li Ling, who was still on the ground. Let's go. Follow me back to the 5 Saint Pavilion. The 5 Saint Pavilion was the residence of the 5th saint. No one had ever been able to get close to it. Li Ling immediately felt like she was falling into the clouds. She was in a daze as she followed the 5th saint into the vast mountains. In the front hall of the holy mountain, a man in golden robes was leaning against the main seat. He had the aura of a king that shook the world, and his figure was slightly slender. His evil and handsome face had a licentious smile as he played with the huge jade ring on his thumb, which was surrounded by golden light. Looking at the group of people crawling on the ground in front of him, the man's long and narrow eyes glowed. Dean Xianyuan, it's been so many years since we last met. Thank you for bringing me such a great gift. The person who spoke was the great saint of the sacred mountain, Yuqi Changfeng, whom the Xiahong house had mentioned. He was the first saint established by the sacred venerate. He was 35 years old this year, and was at the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm. It was rumored that he already had the strength of a half-step Origin ancestor. The moment Yuqi Changfeng's words left his mouth, The few people kneeling on the ground felt as if they had been struck by a divine voice from the heavens. Their divine seals suppressed the heaven and earth, and their bodies shuddered. Their vital chi surged wildly around their bodies, and they didn't dare to raise their heads. Xianyuan Jizue. It's been investigated that the cause of the disaster was Su Yi, who wanted to steal the crimson water crystal. He disguised himself and ruined the entire disciple ceremony. Even Mayor Ouyang and Ouyang Jinwei were severely injured. The fifth saint was fighting with him for the crystal, and his whereabouts are unknown. What? The fifth saint's whereabouts are unknown? Yuchi Changfeng stood up immediately, and a domineering aura of a king descended from the heavens. Immediately, Xianyuan and the others lowered their heads even more. Among the 9 saints, Yuchi Changfeng was known for being ruthless and temperamental. Today, when they saw him, they felt as if a sharp knife was hanging in their hearts, which could fall at any time. A dangerous aura filled the air. What happened? Yuchi Changfeng asked in a low voice. Dean Xianyuan raised his eyes and looked at Yuchi Changfeng with fear and trepidation. He trembled as he walked to Yuchi Changfeng's side, bowed, and told him the whole story. Ah! Suddenly, the great saint's laughter echoed in the hall. He looked at Dean Xianyuan with joy and said softly, "Very good, very good." The great saint's jealousy of the fifth saint had always been known by the entire sacred mountain. Xianyuan immediately rolled his eyes and said to the great saint, "The great saint is blessed with good fortune. You will definitely be able to represent the sacred mountain in the Battle of Tianfeng." Xianyuan Jizue, I am very happy with the news you brought back this time. The sacred mountain has asked me to deal with this matter, and it's all because of Su Yi. From today onwards, the 100 Herb Academy will be reorganized. Everyone is to hunt down Su Yi. If anyone has news about Su Yi, I will reward them handsomely. Yes. When Xianyuan saw that the Holy Sun was so happy, he winked at his subordinates, and they lifted up many boxes. Yuchi Changfeng asked suspiciously, "What's the Holy Sun's chi?" "This is..." "Great Saint, I heard that you are about to participate in the Battle of Tianfeng. These are the elite students of the 100 Herb Academy." Xianyuan Jizue pointed to Lu Xier and the others. "These kids have been given the soul-devouring bone pill by Su Yi. Only pure Saint Ruler Chi can cure them." Xianyuan Jizue smiled and said, "These little guys' families are more or less related to the elders of the sacred mountain." After the Battle of Tianfeng, if there is a slight deviation between you and the fifth saint, wouldn't it be a good thing? Hearing this, Yuchi Changfeng's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of light, and he laughed shrilly. This Su Yi has repeatedly offended the sacred mountain. The 9th saint and the 5th saint have successively fallen in his hands. Even I'm a little interested in this little ant. These little guy's talents are not bad. I will arrange for the elders to take them in. Xianyuan Jizue, Lu Xier, and the others behind him all smiled happily. By bringing Shen Mo and the others, not only would they be able to answer to the elders of the sacred mountain, but they would also be able to rely on the Great Saint's thigh to solve the 100 Herb Mountains crisis. Great Saint, there is also the Sacred Master and Elder Kuang. Xianyuan Jizue bowed his back, and his posture was extremely low. He did not dare to be careless in his words and actions. Yuchi Changfeng waved his hand, and his sharp laughter sounded again. A pair of slender hands held the armrest of the chair, and he sneered. "Since the Ouyang family has taken a bullet for the sacred mountain and the 5th saint, you naturally know what you are going to say outside. I will naturally give an explanation to Elder Kuang. I will personally report to the sacred master about the 5th saint. You take these people to heal. Old Qin." Boom! Behind the great saint, a golden ripple appeared in the air, and it was dazzling as if it had crossed the void. An old figure appeared from inside, and his aura was incomparably powerful. As soon as he appeared, the entire hall was dyed with golden light, and everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. An absolute powerhouse. It was said that every holy son and holy daughter would arrange for an elder to take care of their martial arts cultivation since they were young. All matters would also be handed over to this elder. This peerless expert in front of him must be the great holy son's personal elder. Chapter 1576. Let's go. Follow me to the Holy Stone Palace. Elder Qin said coldly. Xiahong House, you want to compete with me for the Tianfeng battle? When I become the Holy Master, you will be the first to be sacrificed. Yuqi Chongfeng's cold aura filled the hall, like 1,000-year-old ice. Shenzhen Gate. In the distance, strange mountains stood tall, green and steep, covered by clouds and mist. The continuous mountain peaks were dyed with gorgeous brilliance by the morning light. Near the transmission station, Situ Muyang had been talking with Li Shiran and Chu, making a few faces from time to make them happy. Li Shiran was gentle and polite. She smiled and said softly to Situ Muyang, "Mr. Situ, thank you for taking care of us here. If we return to 100 Herbs in the future, we must invite you to visit us." Situ Muyang was a little embarrassed. He touched the back of his head, smiled and said, "It's nothing. I must do what young martial uncle asked me to do. Shenzhen Gate is my home. You don't have to be polite to come to my home as guests. I'm just doing my duty as a host." Li Shiran was gentle and dignified. She looked into the distance from time to time, and there was a trace of anxiety on her gentle and beautiful face. Situ Muyang coughed and continued. "It's just that this trip is short, so I can't show you around Shenzhen Gate. If you have a chance, Miss Li, you should come more often." Li Shiran immediately asked, "Mr. Situ was born in Shenzhen Gate, so you must be a disciple of Shenzhen Gate, right?" Situ Muyang's bright and deep eyes suddenly flashed a trace of light. He said with a smile, "No, I'm in my mother's sect, Shenzhen Gate. I came back more often after I grew up. When I was a child, I had been practicing hard in the sect. I didn't come out often." Hearing this, Li Shiran's nose twitched slightly. She pulled Chu, who was anxious, and said seriously, "Chu, did you hear that? You and I should learn from young noble Situ when we get there. Cultivate diligently so that we can avenge our tribe and kill Wang Chuanda with our own hands." Chu nodded slightly, frowned, and asked doubtfully, "Brother Muyang, why hasn't Brother Su come back yet? How many days have passed?" Situ Muyang's sword-like eyebrows slanted slightly, but he was not in a hurry at all. He patted Ah Chu's shoulder and said, "Ah Chu, young martial granduncle has been through a lot, the sacred martial assembly, the chaos realm, and so many twists and turns. Which one of those things is not as difficult as these? Young martial granduncle is still safe and sound. You don't have to worry. You don't understand. Other than my safety, I'm also worried about whether Big Brother Su is Grandpa." Chu looked worried. Li Shiran then gently tugged at the corner of Ah Chu's clothes, indicating that he should stop talking. "By the way, young noble Situ, since you are not from Shenzhen Gate, why do you keep calling Big Brother Su young martial granduncle?" Situ Muyang, whose eyes were clear, suddenly scratched the back of his head and said to Li Shiran, "I didn't accept him before, but he has become our elder Su's disciple. According to seniority, he is even higher than my father. In addition, this guy's talent is simply abnormal, so I can only follow him and call him young martial granduncle. I got used to it. There is such a complicated story." "Ha!" Ah Chu and Li Shiran laughed. They asked a lot of questions about Su Yi's deeds along the way, as if they were listening to a story. The morning light shone, and the whole Shenzhen Gate was shrouded in a peaceful and warm golden light today. It was like a sacred heaven and earth, which made people yearn for it. 72 sword peaks stood tall in the clouds. At a glance, the towering mountains and precipitous ridges were filled with a vast expanse of mist. At this moment, The indistinct divine sword mountain range was like a sleepy young man who had yet to wake up. The 36th sword peak towered into the clouds, like a divine sword standing between heaven and earth. It was majestic and imposing, and a divine power was emitted from it. Situ Muyang immediately recalled many memories in his mind. There was a slight fluctuation in his eyes, and he murmured in his heart, "I don't know how Elder Su will react when he knows that young Marshal Granduncle is back. Alas, it's better not to let him know, so as not to be sad. Elder Su's life is hard enough." Thinking of the entanglement between Su Yi and Shinjian Gate, Situ Muyang's good mood immediately became heavy. This had long become a knot in his heart. If it was not untied, he would not be happy. The halo was accompanied by colorful light. Amidst the colorful light, a figure flew towards Situ Muyang like a ball of divine fire. Situ Muyang's mouth gradually pulled up, and he said to Li Shiran, "Miss Li, what did I say? Look over there." Looking in the direction of Situ Muyang, the two were pleasantly surprised. They raised their hands high and said to the flames in the sky, "Over here! Su-yi, over here! We're here!" At this time, a huge black python was hanging in the forest. Its whole body was black, and the snake beast was as ferocious as a dragon. The scales all over its body were like dark green jade. Under the cover of the lush forest, it looked even more mysterious and fierce. It was lying on the treetop and taking a nap. The name Su-yi immediately woke the giant python up. Its scarlet tongue was like a sharp arrow that kept shooting out. Its fierce eyes were like gems that shone in the dim light, and it opened its eyes wide. "He's back. I have to tell Miss Li." Its voice was like a dull clockwork. Hiss! A pair of black and bright wings stretched out slightly behind the giant snake, glowing with a crystal black light. Its tongue kept spitting out, and then it quickly swam towards one of the 72 sword peak. Boom! A series of fiery red phantoms flashed across the sky and landed steadily near the teleportation battle like a big bird. Su-yi smiled faintly at the three of them. "Sorry to keep you waiting." No. It's the best result that Brother Su-yi can come back." Li Shiran could not hide the excitement on her pink cheeks. Ah-Chu was so excited that he could not speak. Last time when Su-yi left, Ah-Chu was still in a semi-coma. This time, he really saw the hero he had been looking up to for a long time. He pinched himself several times and then slapped himself a few times. Situ Muyang was also overjoyed and said, "Brother Ah-Chu, it's true. You're not dreaming." Ah! They laughed, and the reunion made everyone's faces full of joy. After a while, Su-yi took 2 steps back and bowed deeply to Li Shiran and Ah-Chu. "Brother Su-yi, what are you doing?" Ah-Chu was flattered and puzzled. Li Shiran's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light, and her eyes were full of reverence. She said to Ah-Chu, "Ah-Chu, Grandpa found it." After that, her eyes were filled with tears. Ah-Chu woke up and said involuntarily, "Really? Is it true? Brother Su-yi, you found that thing?" Chapter 1577. Su-yi stood up. His eyes were clear and bright. He nodded slightly and said to the Li siblings with a serious expression, "I've found the crimson water sky crystal, and I've also seen your grandfather's remnant soul and the legacy of your clan. In addition, the holy mountain has suffered a great loss this time, so I've avenged a little for you, to comfort the souls of your clan members in heaven." Su-yi's words made Li Shiran and the others extremely excited. Their eyes were filled with tears of excitement, and their hands were clenched tightly. With a slight smile, Su-yi took out a space bag and added, "By the way, all the soul-measuring heavenly crystals in the 100 Herb Mountain are here. However, the crimson water sky crystal has already been refined by me. I hope you can understand this matter." Li Shiran and Ah-Chu looked at each other. Their eyes were full of splendor and joy. They bowed to Su-yi and kowtowed 3 times respectfully. Clan leader Su-yi, from now on, we siblings will follow you wherever you go. We won't hesitate to do anything. Su-yi's expression suddenly changed. He helped the 2 of them up. Situ Muyang behind him was scratching his ears and cheeks, not knowing what was going on. Our Li clan's duty is to guard the heavenly crystal. We've been searching for the fated person for the heavenly crystal for hundreds of generations. Now that you've refined the crimson water sky crystal, Brother Su-yi, the Li clan's duty has been fulfilled. The Li clan was born for this, and it's only right that we die for it. The fated person we find will become our clan leader and lead the Li clan to glory again. Li Shiran explained with tears of sadness. Suddenly, Su-yi's thoughts were in a mess. He already had many titles: Tian Yao School's sect leader, Bawang sect's sect leader, Divine Dragon Commander, and now the Li clan's sect leader. He was afraid that there would be too many things for him to do. Sui pondered for a while and made up his mind. I think I'd better forget it. The Li clan should be shouldered by you and your brother. I'll give you all the soul-testing origin crystals in the 100 Herb Mountain. After you go to the Imperial Palace, learn well. When the time comes, won't it be better to regroup and create another Li clan? Li Shiran and Ah Chu both stepped back and waved their hands to refuse. No, 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 the soul-testing crystal is a gift from the sacred mountain. It doesn't belong to our Li clan. Since the heaven crystal has already fused with your body and the sacred mountain has recognized you as its master, we will naturally not take this soul-measuring crystal. Chu said sincerely, Big Brother Su-yi, you've already done so much for us. If you really don't want to be the Li clan's lord, we can understand. But it's not right to take anything from you. No matter what they said, they refused to accept Su-yi's interspatial bag. Helpless, Su-yi could only keep it and sighed. I'll keep it for you in case you need it in the future. But in his heart, he thought that these 2 siblings were quite kind. If there was a chance in the future, it would be very good to let them join the Bawang sect or the Tian Yao school. Haha, you don't have to be so modest. How about this? Let's go to the Imperial Palace first. These 2 siblings are very anxious. Situ Muyang said. Why don't you go back to your sect? Why do you keep following me? Sui said in a deep voice. Situ Muyang had been following him all the time. Of course, he was very happy, but it didn't benefit him much in his pursuit of martial arts. Situ Muyang glanced at Li Shiran, and Li Shiran also gently turned her head to the side, her face blushing. Well, my sect also passes through Yunzhou. I'll go with you. Ah Chu and Su-yi's eyes suddenly had some understanding. With a slight smile, Su-yi waved his hand and said, That's fine. Let's find a remote place to do some things first. After going to Yunzhou, they wouldn't return to Zhongzhou for the time being. Before going to the Imperial Palace, Su-yi felt that it was better to do things locally. If he let the Li siblings give up on Zhongzhou, they could cultivate in peace in the Imperial Palace in the future. After a while, they reached the top of a remote mountain where they could see the Divine Sword Cliff. It was extremely steep, and the cliff was as sharp as a knife. The biting cold wind constantly blew on their bodies, causing their clothes to flutter. Junior Marshal Uncle, don't keep us in suspense. Take it out quickly. Situ Muyang was looking forward to it. Su-yi's mouth slightly turned solemn. Suddenly, an ice-blue barrier opened. The 3 of them were stunned. The mysterious space spread out with a bang, and the violent spiritual energy of heaven and earth spewed out like a raging tide. Su-yi's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared. I haven't seen you for a few days, and this mysterious space has become much more violent. Situ Muyang was horrified and thought to himself, Bang! After a few breaths, Su-yi slowly walked out with a pitch-black figure in his hand. He threw the figure heavily on the ground and leaned against the cliff, dying. The person only left a fluttering left hand. His clothes were tattered and constantly emitted an incomparably rotten stench. His beard and hair had fallen off, and his face had collapsed. He was extremely ferocious, like a demon born from the ground. It was extremely terrifying. His voice was like gossamer, and it seemed that he had experienced extremely tragic inhuman torture. Seeing this situation, Li Shiran's figure trembled slightly. She was afraid and unconsciously leaned against Situ Muyang and Ah Chu. She grabbed the corner of her clothes tightly and looked at Su Yi in confusion. "Brother Su, who is this?" There was no reason for Su Yi to suddenly pull out a monster to scare her. There must be a reason. "This is Wang Chuanda." Su Yi's eyes were cold. "What?" the three of them exclaimed one after another. Li Shiran's eyes were filled with anger, and Ah Chu was even more furious and rushed forward. Ah Chu summoned up her courage and quietly lifted Wang Chuanda's scattered hair. After careful identification, she said in a trembling voice because of anger, "It's him. It's him. Sister. This is that old bastard." Hearing Ah Chu's confirmation, Li Shiran's eyes were suddenly filled with tears because of excitement. She looked at Su Yi, full of emotions. Slap! A slap fell heavily on Wang Chuanda's bloody face. "It's all because of you, bad guy. You killed Grandpa, you killed all of us." Ah Chu looked at the half-dead Wang Chuanda in front of her in exasperation. All her anger and hatred surged up and she started to punch and kick Wang Chuanda. "I'll kill you. This kind of person should die a horrible death." After saying that, Ah Chu picked up a few huge stones from the side and threw them at Wang Chuanda. However, the strength of the Origin Emperor realm was still there. The huge stones smashed and bounced back, almost hitting Ah Chu herself. Su Yi patted Ah Chu's shoulder gently, motioning her to calm down a little, and said, "This person also has a blood feud with me. I have already resolved the hatred in my heart, but he is the murderer who killed your loved ones after all. You decide how to deal with him." "Brother Su Yi, thank you. Thank you for catching the murderer for us. My brother and I really don't know when we can kill our enemy." Li Shiran's eyes were filled with tears, and she sobbed silently. The terrifying face that would wake up every night was lying on the ground and being ravaged by her today. This was all thanks to Su Yi. Chapter 1578. Situ Muyang was also indignant. He handed the long sword in his hand to Li Shiran and said, "Miss Li, this sword is for you. Stab this bastard's heart directly. This old man, junior martial uncle, has already crippled him. Don't be afraid, he won't resist." "Don't." Wang Chuanda, whose mouth was full of blood, couldn't say anything. His blood-stained eyes stared blankly at Li Shiran. Li Shiran held the long sword in her hand and kept trembling. She said in a trembling voice, I can't do it." His cheeks were already covered with bloodstains. Wang Chuanda's left hand was on the ground, and he said like a lamp that had run out of oil, "Miss, do me a favor. They are both great holy sons." Li Shiran pursed her lips tightly. When she heard the words, "great holy son," the trembling tip of the sword immediately fell down. Li Shiran still couldn't do it. She turned around, with tears in her eyes, and said to Su Yi, "Brother Su, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'll do it. I'll kill this old bastard." Ah Chu wanted to take the sword hilt from Li Shiran's hand. In the blink of an eye, Wang Chuanda rushed towards Li Shiran like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. "Su Yi, since you're going to die anyway, you might as well drag her down with you. I'll make you restless for the rest of your life." "Miss Li." Situ Muyang's eyes widened in anger. How could he make it in time? "Sister." Ah Chu was also panicking. Boom. An icy blue water elemental energy suddenly appeared in the air. Before Wang Chuanda could touch Su Yi's figure, he had already turned into an afterimage and rushed to Li Shiran's side, pushing her to the side heavily. With a light tap of his feet and a slight turn of his body, Wang Chuanda completely missed his target. The strong wind whistled over the 100-feet cliff. Wang Chuanda fell directly off the cliff like a bird with a broken string. Su-yi, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Within the 100-feet cliff, Wang Chuanda's roar quickly dissipated in the whistling sound like the whimper of an evil ghost. The enemy of many years turned into the debris of the valley just like that. Woo woo woo. Li Shiran suddenly felt a kind of release and relief in her heart. She turned around and threw herself into the arms of Situmuyang, who was nearby, and cried. Chu also had tears in her eyes and gently wiped them clean. I want to become stronger. I want everyone in the sacred mountain to die. I, Li Zhangchu, will burn down your foundation one day. Chu roared at the cliff like a volcanic eruption. Su-yi then patted Chu's shoulder gently. His eyes were full of gratification and appreciation. He laughed and said, Good boy, you were a hero when you were alive, and a hero when you died. I will go through all kinds of difficulties and dangers, and I will destroy the blood feud. Chu wiped away his tears, and his eyes were full of determination. After taking revenge, Chu's temperament seemed to become awe-inspiring for no reason, and he became much more mature in an instant. With such a change, Su-yi was naturally overjoyed. After experiencing so many things, the deep hatred had always been Su-yi's unremitting motivation. But at the same time, being able to help and protect his people and making them happy was the best result that Su-yi wanted to pursue. Miss Shiran, don't cry. Let's get ready to go. Su-yi smiled slightly and looked at Li Shiran. Li Shiran knew that she had lost her composure. She jumped out of Situmuyang's arms and responded with a shy face. Okay. Big brother Su-yi. Let's go. Just as Su-yi turned around and was about to leave, a gust of wind whistled behind him. Su-yi spread out his spiritual sense, and the Origin Supreme technique wrapped the three of them like a wave, protecting them heavily. Who? Su-yi shouted angrily, and his eyes flowed out like swords. In the void behind him, a black vortex-like storm surged. In the storm, a black-scaled python was chewing a meat-like object in its mouth. Its pair of fierce eyes were like copper bells, exuding a mysterious light. It's Wang Chuanda. There was a pair of wings on its back that kept circling, causing the hurricane in the mountains to become even more violent. The sound of crunching was like minced meat, which was very shocking. Li Shiran and Chu had never seen such a scene. Seeing the minced Wang Chuanda being swallowed into the python's stomach, and the minced meat was thrown all over the cliff, they immediately lay on the cliff and began to vomit. Su-yi. Long time no see. A cold and weak voice came out. In the wings, a young girl about the same age as Su-yi rose up and stepped on the python's head. She stood proudly with an extraordinary temperament. The young girl's black hair was like a waterfall, her eyes were as clear as water, and her red lips were extremely delicate. She was like a banished immortal, adding a bit of wild temperament. She was cold and proud, with a kind of moving beauty. Her crescent eyebrows were slightly curved, and there was a trace of excitement between her eyebrows. Senior Sister Mu Yao, Situmuyang said in surprise. You! Su-yi turned to look at Situmuyang. It's not me, it's not me. Situmuyang immediately turned to Su-yi and explained. Li Shiran also helped to explain. Su-yi's return, Situmuyang really didn't tell anyone. Su-yi gently raised his hand and walked to the edge of the cliff. His robe fluttered, and the Origin Supreme technique suddenly activated. His temperament suddenly changed, and his fighting spirit was surging. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised. Boom! The 9 hell snake trembled as if it had seen the supreme of the demon race. It immediately shouted, I'm sorry. I told Miss Little M.O. what's wrong with you? Mu Yao was very puzzled. Even if Su Yi's cultivation was already very strong, as a demon race cub, the 9 hell snakes shouldn't be so afraid. Su Yi's body exuded a majestic pressure like a 1,000-year-old mountain. It pressed down on the 9 hell snake's body, causing it to tremble. It almost shook Mu Yao off. Fortunately, Su Yi restrained his aura in time, and everything returned to normal. You've actually reached this point. Mu Yao's eyes were filled with shock. Compared to the time after the Sacred Martial Arts Assembly, Su Yi's strength had risen to a whole new level. He was incomparably powerful, but the space between his brows had become even more steady and calm. She could faintly see the great spirit of a great master. This made Mu Yao, who had always been arrogant and unyielding to the heavens and earth, once again feel the powerlessness she felt during the Myriad Sword Assembly. What's said in the sect is true. You've really made a name for yourself. Mu Yao muttered to herself, looking at Su Yi's eyes slightly fluctuating. Su Yi smiled slightly, raised his eyes and said, "It seems that you've inquired a lot about me, Miss Mu Yao?" "Bah! You speak as if anyone is willing to inquire about your affairs. Bastards can cause a bunch of bastards wherever they go." Mu Yao's crescent brows immediately furrowed as she spoke softly. "Say it. Why are you looking for me? I don't remember you being so good to me." Su Yi said calmly. "You're talking nonsense. Forget it. Let me ask you, when you returned to Xinjiang Gate, why didn't you go and see Elder Su? He has been missing you for so many days, and so are your fellow disciples." Chapter 1579. After saying that, Mu Yao pursed her lips tightly. It seemed that there were some words that were inconvenient to say in front of so many people. Her face was flushed. "Senior and junior brothers? Does Yun Lingfeng count?" Su Yi sneered. Xinjiang Gate could be said to be the place where he had the most feelings outside of Man City. However, this place also hurt him the most. Sigh. Of course not. If it weren't for the protection of the elders, we wouldn't have bothered with this person. It is said that he has also cultivated the Devil Sword principle. If you meet him in the future, be careful. Su Yi's brows relaxed slightly. Seeing Mu Yao again, it seemed that Mu Yao wasn't as overbearing as before. The wind from the peak of the mountain fluttered her silky hair, giving her an extreme sense of beauty. "Okay, I know. Yun Lingfeng, I hope you don't meet me. Even if your Grand Elder comes, he won't be able to save you." Su Yi sneered in his heart. Mu Yao looked at Su Yi. She didn't know what to say. The 9 hell snake looked at Su Yi as if he was a monster. The light in his eyes dimmed. Su Yi said, "Are you done? I'll leave first. I'll come and find you in the future." Su Yi turned and walked towards the 3 people. "Find me?" Hearing that, Mu Yao's heart was timid. She directly raised her hand to Su Yi and said, "Wait. There's one more thing. Elder Su asked me to bring it to you." "What?" Su Yi said. "After you left, Elder Su's mood was not very good. One day, he came to talk to Master to ease his mood. I also heard the following words." Mu Yao frowned slightly and imitated Elder Su's tone. "Su Yi, this brat, I'm really happy that he's doing so well outside. However, I didn't teach him enough at that time. Su Yi can comprehend sword intent and use it to such an extent. He's really a good seedling. I'm not worried that he's being chased by the holy mountain. He doesn't even have a sense of existence. He doesn't deserve to be called my disciple." Su Yi's heart was in turmoil. He felt a sense of pride. He was happy that he didn't embarrass Elder Su. Then he heard Mu Yao say, "Elder Su told Master that he was worried that you would blindly pursue speed and not pay attention to the foundation. He knows that if you can enter the heavenly palace, there's a place where you can improve your understanding of swords and sabers. If the headquarters doesn't allow you to enter, he will bring you to try. Finally, he said, no matter how powerful the martial arts technique, martial art is edgeless. The great Tao of the great Tao. You must remember this. Thump! Su Yi's heart suddenly jumped. The image of Elder Su's short figure and his slightly wrinkled face appeared in his mind. A lustrous feeling spread to his eyes. Su Yi's face darkened. He turned around and whispered, Mu Yao, if you meet Elder Su, please tell him that this disciple has learned. Su Yi's slightly sad voice made the other three look at him. They didn't dare to speak again. Su Yi lowered his head and whispered, Let's go. Before he left, Su Yi still left behind a sentence saying softly, Mu Yao. Thank you. Soon after, the three of them flew towards the teleportation station. Only Mu Yao, whose moon-like eyes were surging, was left standing proudly in the wind. Who would have known that the days at Xinjian Gate might be the happiest and most carefree days of Su Yi's life? Who would have known that Su Yi and Xinjian Gate would have all kinds of relations in the future? The 36th Sword Peak. The peak was hidden, and the cold mountain ranges were stacked. The 36 sword edges, shrouded in mist, were like the divine swords of heaven and earth that were sheathed. An incomparably sharp spiritual energy of heaven and earth was about to surge out at any time. In a sword hut, an old man the size of an 8 or 9-year-old child was sitting cross-legged in meditation. He was the sword Yama of Xinjian Gate, Suruga. Suruga's body was surrounded by incomparably sharp sword waves. Layer upon layer, it was like a monstrous sword formation that came from heaven and earth. Countless divine weapons were suspended in the air. The sword radiance surged, and the radiance was as bright as the sunset. It constantly buzzed on the surrounding wooden shelves. Suruga's wrinkled face seemed to have sensed some changes in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. His eyebrows gradually furrowed. Since this morning, Suruga had been restless during his cultivation. There was no time for him to concentrate. Then, Suruga opened his slightly yellow eyes, and a sharp light flashed. The burning sandalwood incense in the air rose in spirals. Suddenly, it was extinguished by a gust of wind. Humph! Suruga said angrily in a deep voice. Stinking brat, did you not enter the house 3 times? If you don't bring me a good ranking in the Tianfeng battle, I will deal with you personally. Suruga's robe shook, and the sword aura around him was incomparably sharp. With 2 swishing sounds, all the incense tables and candlesticks in the small room were extinguished. Waves of black smoke floated in the air. Borrowing the direct sunlight from outside, Suruga, who was cultivating in the corner, revealed a gratified smile on his face. On the other side, between the mountains, the clear lake reflected the incomparably blue sky. Mu Yao was doing her makeup near the lake. Her bright eyes were as clear as water, and the light around her was sparkling and translucent. Lying on the side was the 9 hell snake that had just reported. Its body was filled with a faint golden color, and its sparkling and translucent jade-like eyes blinked. It was very lively. Looking at the lake, Mu Yao was slightly dazed. She intimately stroked the scales of the 9 hell snake, and thought about what Su Yi had said. He said that he would come to find me again? Did he come specifically to find me? Little Mo, can you guess what it is about? The 9 hell snake kept flicking its tongue into the air, and its fierce eyes revealed a trace of astonishment and vigilance as it spoke. Miss, Su Yi is much stronger than the last time we separated. I can feel that he has reached another level. It's better that you don't have anything to do with him. Mu Yao frowned, and her snow-white hands held her chin again as she murmured. Little Mo, he seems to have become less annoying. Why did I feel very sad when I heard that he was dead, but I can't help but feel happy when I see him today? What is the reason for this? The 9 hell snake rolled its eyes, lowered its head, and leaned against the edge of the pool. It quietly washed the water, and did not want to pay attention to Mu Yao. Swish! Mu Yao's expression was solemn as her brows furrowed slightly. She stood up and brandished the longsword in her hand again. A vast sword light was displayed in the air once more. A 20-year-old 7th-level origin void realm was already formidable to the extreme. Compared to Shinemo, Lu Xier, and the others that Su Yi had faced before, they were much older and had the support of their families. However, Mu Yao was able to attain such a profound cultivation base at the age of 20 by herself. She was truly one of the top geniuses in the 6 continents, 3 continents and 1 ocean. Chapter 1580. Roar, roar! Mu Yao's sword flickered, and the sword shadows that filled the sky were tightly controlled by her. Her body exuded an incomparably powerful aura. Origin chi surged from the soles of her feet, and her beautiful figure soared into the sky like a swallow. A golden light filled the sky, and she looked like a fairy that had descended into the mortal world. She was absolutely beautiful. Gently wiping the sweat off her chin, Mu Yao thought of Su Yi's slender but extremely tall figure and the last words he left behind. Her heart was filled with emotions. Looks like that annoying fellow still has feelings for the Xunjian Gate. No matter what reason he has for coming to find me in the future, I can't be worse than him. I've said it before, I will defeat him. When she thought of this, Mu Yao Yu's eyes moved. There was a slight mist rising from her face. The water was sparkling and the world was long and Mu Yao was smiling sweetly. Hiss, hiss! Let's go, the air here is a little sour. It's better to eat some small beasts or mice. The 9 netherworld snake flicked its scarlet tongue, and its soft body wriggled between the grass. It didn't say anything to Mu Yao and directly swam away, leaving behind a long gully. The Cloud Prefecture was also one of the 6 continents, 3 prefectures, and 1 ocean. Compared to the Central Prefecture, the Cloud Prefecture was much smaller, but because of the natural essence and the alternation of the sun and the moon, many places in the Cloud Prefecture were rich in natural powers and natural products. At the same time, because of its remote location and high geographical location, the Cloud Continent had many dangerous places and natural secret realms. Thus, the Cloud Continent had always been a place for secluded experts and top-notch rogue cultivators to cultivate. It had the beautiful title of Cloud Continent, Heaven on Earth. Furthermore, the barbaric beasts here were rare and had existed for a long time. Thus, compared to the Chaos region and the barbaric demon forest, the barbaric beasts here were superior in terms of quality. Their battle strength was extremely high, and their ferocity far surpassed those of the same level. Compared to the Chaos region, where there were no rules and no ranks, the Cloud region was truly a good place to live in seclusion and cultivate. In fact, there were even some areas in the depths of the Cloud Prefecture that had never been explored by anyone. Rumor had it that there were countless treasures and spirit plants growing everywhere. It had even become a paradise for mercenary groups to hunt for treasures and third-party thugs. Among them, the Immeasurable House was the strongest force in Yunzhou. It had been famous for a long time and belonged to 1 mountain, 2 churches, 3 sects, and 4 houses. However, no one had mentioned that the Heavenly Palace's headquarters was also in the Cloud Province. But thinking about it, the fact that the Heavenly Palace's headquarters was located in the Cloud Province was in line with the personalities of those transcendent alchemists and refiners who had no desires. After 2 days of teleportation, Su Yi and the others finally arrived at the boundary of the Cloud region after 2 transits from the Central region to the Central region. Young Marshal Uncle, are the 2 disciples of the Holy Mountain we met at the Xinjiang Gate reliable? Situ Muyang asked with a heavy expression. Su Yi, on the other hand, had a smile on his face. It turned out that after separating from Mu Yao and preparing to teleport, he really did run into Sun Hao and Zhang Dan, who had come to the Xinjiang Gate to wait for Su Yi. As soon as the 2 of them saw Su Yi, they fell to their knees. Without any background, even if they had the talent of a second-rate sect, they wouldn't be chosen by the Holy Mountain. They might as well follow Su Yi and do something big. With such loyal people, Su-yi was naturally happy to accept them. So, he arranged for them to find the Shadow Hall disciples scattered across the central continent and have them bring Sun Hao and Zhang Dan back to the Chaos region to join the Bawang sect. It could be considered a wonderful thing. Therefore, Su-yi's mood gradually improved along the way. He killed Wang Chuanda, destroyed the 100 Herb College, and poached 2 small corners. He was very happy along the way. The few of them talked and laughed. Situ Muyang kept teasing Li Shiran, while Su-yi and Ah Chu made fun of them. In the end, the few of them arrived at the gate of a city without much effort. There were a few gilded words on the plaque, Suayun County. The momentum was grand and heroic, and there was a vague feeling that it could swallow mountains and rivers and stand alone from the world. Su-yi carefully looked at the words of Suayun County. It seemed to contain the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was a kind of heavenly power that could grasp the sun and moon, capture the firmament and defy the universe. It was like a wave, and it was like a martial artist imparting a skill. It instantly turned into a stream of light and rushed into Su-yi's glabella. Su-yi could feel an extremely thick spiritual chi of heaven and earth rushing into his meridians and merging with the great void spirit sea. His whole body, including his breathing, became extremely comfortable. Suddenly, the tiredness of the journey was swept away. Su-yi squinted his eyes and said loudly, "The Ziyun celestial cave is locked deep in the clouds, and there are people in the cave who do not know." Suddenly He-in-xian, laughed at my white-haired old mortal world. After reciting the poem, Su-yi knew that these words must have been carved by an absolute powerhouse. The spiritual energy in it made his demon soul of Tianyuan tremble. Suayun County. It is indeed a good name. Su-yi could not help but praise. Situ Muyang, Li Shiran, and Ah Chu turned their heads at the same time. Their eyes were immediately filled with endless reverence. "Little Uncle Master, I didn't expect you to be a scholar." Yes, Brother Su, you are so literary." Su-yi laughed softly. He was slightly embarrassed. He waved his hand and said, No, I just suddenly thought of these words. I just felt it. The momentum is majestic, the strokes are powerful." "Muyang, is this Suayun County a nearby city?" Su-yi remembered that this was also the path that Situ Muyang had to pass through to return to the sect. He immediately asked. Situ Muyang raised his hand and touched his chin. He said, "Well, this Suayun County is actually not that big, but it is not that small either. However, it has always been inconspicuous in the Yunzhou. At best, it is a second-class city, which can't even be compared to the 9-star city. It is neither a transportation hub nor a place with abundant resources. But the strange thing is that there have always been many gatherings of refiners and alchemists here. Auctions, treasure appraisals, and treasure fights are common here." Hearing this, Su-yi's eyes darkened slightly. He thought, if only Yunjing was here. There are so many treasures here. Originally, Su-yi felt that he was only ashamed of Ling Qianxue. She had saved him many times. In the 9 Spirits clan, she had finally fallen in love with him, and their souls were compatible. Although they had never revealed their feelings to each other, they had the same thoughts. It could be said that in this world, if one were to pick the person who understood him the most, it would undoubtedly be Ling Qianxue. "Where is Yunjing?" Su-yi asked himself in his heart. In front of Yunjing, she was like an elf that had fallen into the mortal world when she was mischievous. However, the sadness and loneliness hidden in her heart made Su-yi understand that she was also as fragile as glass. Suddenly, like a spring dream, Yunjing had unknowingly planted a seed in Su-yi's heart. In the end, it took root and sprouted in the charming cave, blossoming and bearing fruit. The whole mountain was filled with gorgeous scenery. Chapter 1581. Looking at the different buildings in front of him, Su-yi thought to himself, "I'd better strengthen myself first." If I'm not strong enough, I can't save Qing, and Qianxue's body. Then, he looked up and said to the three of them, "Let's go. You've worked hard these 2 days. Let's go and see the fun in Yunzhou." As soon as they entered the city, the spiritual energy that soared into the sky swept over them. From the buildings to the clothing, from the peddlers' shouts to the things they were selling, they were all poles apart from the style of the central province. A wave of freshness colored everyone. Looking left and right, everyone's face was filled with curiosity. "Wow! Brother Su, this place is so fun." "Yes, I haven't seen so many things before." Between the carved beams and painted rafters, there was a grand and unrestrained momentum. Between the beams and pillars, there was a faint brilliance flowing, and the silver-white light was elegant and agile like clouds and mist. Yunzhou's floating silver wood. Su Yi's mouth slightly outlined a smile. Su Yi had seen this thing in the 9-Star Valley before. Even the cloud region, which was famous for its dangers, was hidden 10,000 meters below the Broken Sword Sea. He didn't expect that even an ordinary house here would be built with the cloud region's floating silver wood. It seemed that this place wasn't simple. There were dangers everywhere. "This small Suiyun County is really unusual." Su Yi sighed in his heart. The world was so big. Roughly counting, this was the 3rd continent he had been to. If he had time, when he didn't have any trivial matters to attend to, and when he didn't have any worries, he could travel the world with a celestial companion. Or perhaps he could explore Yunzhou. That would be a wonderful thing. What a pity. Su Yi thought that if Merciless West was here, she would tell him a lot of wonderful experiences and life's wonderful words. An inconspicuous county had a lot of floating silver wood. The people on the street were not all people who knew the value of floating silver wood. At this time, in the distant crowd, 2 figures had run away like the wind. "Sister, Brother Su, I'll go over there and have a look. See you later." Chu's eyes were full of excitement. In this place they were complete outsiders. Li Shiran was suddenly a little panicked. "Chu, don't run around. Look at you, don't be presumptuous." Li Shiran scolded from behind. Situmuyang, who ran into the crowd with Achu, turned around and smiled at Li Shiran. "Miss Shiran, I'm here. It'll be fine." Su Yi also smiled at the side without saying a word. Everyone was a little tired after the long journey. Now that they finally arrived at a place where they could rest, it was only right for them to relax a little. Let them go. Only by seeing more and traveling more can one grow into a man. Li Shiran smiled softly, nodded slowly to Su Yi and said softly, "Big Brother Su, if Achu can have half of your achievements, I will be satisfied. Your talent is no less than Achu's. You should also work hard to become a female sole controller of the Li family." Su Yi's eyes shone with encouragement. Immediately, Li Shiran looked expectant and encouraged as she replied, "Okay, but Yunzhou is not small. I still don't know where the headquarters of the Heavenly Command Palace is located." Speaking of the headquarters of the Heavenly Command Palace, Su Yi had heard from Deputy Palace Master Guan Lan that with the half-step heaven grade badge of the Heavenly Command Palace, there would naturally be someone to pick him up when he arrived in Yunzhou. However, Su Yi's heart and soul had not sensed it until now, which was quite strange. The Heavenly Command Palace is cold and arrogant. They don't have much involvement with the secular world. The location of their headquarters must not be easy to find. It's understandable. As Su Yi spoke to Li Shiran, his mind was also constantly probing for clues. "It seems to be more lively in front. Big Brother Su, let's go and have a look." Li Shiran pointed to the crowd in front of them, and all her thoughts were diverted. When they got closer, they found that Situmuyang and Achu were among them. Su Yi frowned slightly and suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. There was a 5-colored primordial stone as tall as a person standing on the field, releasing a dense light. It was like a wave of air that constantly repelled the energy light wave. The onlookers' faces suddenly changed. Old Master, is it true that you said you can test my soul and give me a Taoist instrument? Ah Chu smiled and crossed her hands with confidence. Ah Chu! Li Shiran's eyes flashed with anxiety. There was no free lunch in the world. On the opposite side, a thin and lean old man with sunken eyes and a goatee fluttering in the wind glanced at Ah Chu, and then looked around the audience and said, "Yes. If anyone can light up all 7 of my best soul-testing primordial stones of red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple, I will give him the Mystic Thunder Compliance Pagoda that I have recently cultivated." Boom! As soon as he took it out, a small pagoda-shaped Taoist instrument appeared in the old man's palm. It had a quiet aura and light diffused out. Spiritual chi soared into the sky with a terrifying vortex aura that rushed into the entire small encirclement. Wow! Treasures! The amount of spiritual chi here is simply too powerful. I think it's not only at the level of a Taoist instrument, but also at the high level of a Taoist instrument. The surrounding people were some rogue cultivators, alchemists, and refiners. At this time, when they saw the pagoda in the old man's hand, they couldn't stop discussing and talking at the same time like boiling water. Fellow Taoists, fellow artifact refiners. This time, we came to this small Lock Cloud County with the intention of communication. If anyone feels that their soul talent is good, you can come to my best soul-testing primordial stone to ask for advice. Of course, it's not free. The qualification to be tested is a soul-testing primordial stone. Wow. This is too expensive. Forget it. Let's go. It's not like we haven't tested our talent before. How can we carry the soul-testing primordial stone with us? Let's go. We can't afford that Taoist instrument. When they heard the old man say such a price, everyone present felt a little guilty and turned around to leave. The soul-testing primordial stone was expensive. It was not worth using it to test their soul talent that had already been tested. Ahem. The old man cleared his throat. Actually, when the old man saw that everyone was about to leave, he became anxious, his beard fluttered, and he immediately shouted, Everyone turned around, thinking that there was something else. I'm Elder Sun Hun of the Imperial Palace. When we leave the palace, we use this soul-testing primordial stone to collect the best disciples in the world with the best soul quality and bring them to the headquarters of the Imperial Palace. You all said that the headquarters of the Imperial Palace is in Cloud State. Do you know where it is? Imperial Palace, in the world of refiners, it's a sacred place. Those who come to Cloud State are usually here to seek refuge with the Imperial Palace. Hearing the old man's words, everyone's eyes lit up. They were eager to try, and they groped up and down, trying to find a soul-testing primordial stone. Humph, this old man's skill of swindling is not bad. Su Yi's face was cold, and he sneered in his heart. What? Brother Su, is that old man a swindler? Li Shiran couldn't believe it. Please remember the domain name of this book. .com. Wonderful Book Mobile Version Website. .com. Chapter 1582. Su Yi touched his chin and said faintly, "The Taoist item is fake. As for the soul-testing crystal, its aura is similar to the one I found. But is there really such a top-grade crystal? And it's on the street? I don't believe it." Not to mention Tao artifacts, Su Yi even had sacred artifacts. Ever since he started cultivating, he had touched at least hundreds of thousands of weapons and magic artifacts, and thousands of Tao artifacts. Whether it was a Tao artifact or not, he could tell at a glance. The soul-testing crystal of the 100 Herbs Sacred Mountain for hundreds of thousands of years was just like this. How could this old man casually take out a top-grade soul-testing crystal? Su Yi's heart was full of doubts. Thump, thump. Situ Muyang and Ah Chu ran over excitedly. Situmuyang and Ah Chu looked at Sui with longing eyes. You really want to go? Sui said with a smile. Yes, yes. The two nodded like chickens pecking at rice. Their eyes were full of excitement and excitement. With a helpless smile, Sui took out 2 soul-testing crystals from his interspatial bag and handed them to the two. He said, Go and have fun. Don't worry about the result. Brother Su said that the old man is a liar. Let's not waste our time. Li Shiran said. Ah Chu and Situmuyang were a little stunned. They looked confused and said, No way. I think that old man is quite powerful. Let's go and have a look first. If it's fake, we'll beat him up on the spot. Situmuyang took the crystal and walked into the crowd again with Ah Chu. On the field, the old man stroked his beard and narrowed his eyes. The tower in his hand was constantly spinning around his body. The gorgeous light was as dazzling as a golden rainbow. Who wants to be the first? The old man whispered. Me. With a dull voice, a tall man in a long robe with an unprepossessing face full of determination took out a soul-testing crystal and handed it to the old man. A prodigy of soul. Not bad. Sui sensed with his Tianyuan demon soul and could feel that the quality of the man's soul was quite high. Place your hand on it and don't obstruct it. Channel your spiritual energy in bit by bit. I don't need you to tell me that. I know how to. The man grunted and shook off the old man's hand. His temper was very fiery. He directly walked to the front of the soul-measuring crystal and placed his hand on it. Immediately, the rainbow-colored origin chi radiance that covered the sky continued to extending out and circling around the man, producing the sonorous sound of wind and thunder. Who? The whistling light from the soul-measuring crystal was like a waterfall, and the surrounding space suddenly distorted. Low sonic booms were constantly transmitted through the void, and under the invisible pressure, everyone held their breaths. Boom! Finally, the 7-colored light returned to the soul-measuring crystal. The light continued to rise and fall until it finally stopped at the green horizontal bar. There was no more movement. The old man's eyes widened slightly. He raised his head and said, King-grade talent. You may leave. Humph. The irascible man flicked his sleeves and walked out of the crowd. He scratched the back of his head and frowned. That's impossible. Why am I only a king-grade talent? Humph. You've all tried the soul-measuring crystal, but this is the best soul-measuring crystal. It can give you a king-grade talent, but you're still not satisfied. You're simply greedy. Who else is next? I'll give it a try. Ah Chu was eager to try and stared at the old man. When he walked forward, when the others saw Ah Chu coming up, they all roared with laughter and said to him, Little brat, how old are you? And NBS ha, why can't I feel your cultivation? Young man, are you also a refiner? Or an alchemist? Or a fart refiner? When Situmuyang heard this, he frowned and shouted angrily at the crowd, What are you laughing at? It's not about age to be ambitious. Humph, I'll make your mouths fall to the ground later. Ah Chu was furious. Li Shiran, who was outside the crowd, shook her head and smiled. These two guys are really stubborn. They're not convinced at all. Whoosh! At this moment, 3 people in light blue brocade robes floated down from the sky and landed in the crowd like flying immortals. When the old man saw the 3 of them, his face immediately changed and his expression became a little unnatural. Suyi's brows furrowed as he thought to himself, These 3 have some skills. Stand down. It was a handsome and elegant young man in his early 20s. His hair was slanted to his temples, like an immortal in a painting. There was a sense of arrogance between his eyebrows. His jade-like face immediately intoxicated all the cultivators of the opposite sect. The 2 cultivators behind him had solemn faces. Their cold aura spread across the sky. Their bulging muscles had a dark luster under the sun. They were obviously martial artists. So handsome. Is he from the infinite sect? Look at his clothes. This is the territory of the infinite sect. Sui heard the whispers of the people around him, and frowned slightly. These people from the infinite sect didn't seem to have good intentions. The two cultivators behind him had light auras, and their combat strength wasn't ordinary. They were about the 6th level of the Origin Emperor realm. The young man in front had a lower cultivation, but he was also at the half-step Origin Emperor realm. At first glance, he was also an extraordinary existence in the infinite sect. Get lost, all of you. The two cultivators looked ferocious. The onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air one after another. Some who were afraid of trouble walked away directly. Immediately, the two tall and mighty attendants said to the young man in every possible way, Young master, you can begin." The young man didn't answer. He stared straight at Situmuyang and Ah Chu, wondering why they hadn't left yet. "I asked you two to get lost. Did I give you two little faces?" The attendants released a beam of origin chi light. Immediately, a mountain-like pressure rushed over, and everyone felt a chill down their spines. When Ah Chu was about to speak, Situmuyang stopped her and said, "Do you understand that it's first come, first served? Is it the style of the infinite sect to bully others?" Li Shiran grabbed the corner of her clothes tightly. Sui had already begun to circulate the Origin Supreme technique in his body. His eyes emitted a cold light. "Kid, what did you say?" The young man thought he had heard wrongly and asked Situmuyang. Immediately, a ball of anger burned in Situmuyang's chest. He shouted angrily, "I said, first come, first served. Do you want me to teach you? You have guts." The young man squinted his eyes and smiled. "Kid, I think you are really stupid." The two cultivators behind him suddenly rushed forward. An incomparably majestic force directly pressed on Situmuyang's shoulder. Their sword-like gazes could cut him apart in a matter of minutes. Situmuyang's expression brightened, and he wasn't afraid at all. The attendants were even angrier. They flew in front of him, and a huge palm fell. "You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Die." Bang! A palm print that filled the sky blasted down. Ce immediately felt a burst of numbness. His facial muscles trembled, and he quickly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes, Sui stood in front of him. His tall and straight figure was like a god descending to the mortal world. Majestic origin chi of fire attribute spewed out from his palm and wrapped around the big palm print like a dragon. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.